earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. Ramokgopa says although government received concurrence from the NERSA to start the procurement, the process will be halted for a second public participation. Speaking in a special media briefing in Pretoria, Ramokgopa said the applicants had requested more transparency.
The last thing we want is to do a major build program on the back of suspicion that the department and government is hiding something from the public. So I said we are going to democratize this process, we are going to make it transparent, and on the basis of that, I then directed that it is important that we accede to that request. Essentially saying to council, we are agreeing on what Life Africa is saying and the other party, that this process must be subjected to an additional, if you like, public participation process.
The Benchmarks Foundation says it's disappointing to see that over a decade after mine workers were killed for demanding an increase in wages, conditions in Marikana near Rustenburg in the northwest have not changed. On August the 16th, 2012, police gunned down 34 Lonmin Platinum mine workers who had embarked on a strike to demand a 12,500 rand salary. The foundation says the current 16,000 rand monthly salary does not meet the workers' needs. At least 10 people, including mine workers, police officers and security guards, were also killed days preceding the massacre. The foundation's director is Busi Tabane.
2 weeks ago, as the Benchmarks Foundation, we went into Wonderkop in Kanini's informal settlement because we were doing a follow-up survey on what's happening currently. And what we found that was very sad. Firstly, the working conditions for workers still have not changed. Workers have been telling us that in 2012, they were demanding a living wage of 12,500 rand. At the moment, they are looking at about 16,000 rand. If you look at the high rise in cost of living and inflation, it has no value.
Tabani says they've also observed poor housing conditions which have forced mine workers and their families to live in informal settlements.
So we did say in our previous reports that what happened in Marikana was that they used to live in these same-sex hostels. But what has happened now is that many of the workers are on living out allowances and now they live in the communities. So what happens is they live in the closest communities, in the informal settlements of Kanini, in Wonderkop, and this also puts a burden on the infrastructure or the non-existing infrastructure in these communities, and it is a recipe for disaster. Crime levels have gone up, socio-economic issues are rising in these areas.
And finally, further afield, India's largest association of doctors has called for a nationwide withdrawal of non-emergency services tomorrow in protest against the rape and murder of a junior doctor in a Kolkata hospital last week. Over the past several days, thousands of medics in cities across India have been protesting on the streets, calling for justice. The BBC's Esramela Gupta reports.
In a statement, the Indian Medical Association said it was time for the authorities to ensure the safety of doctors inside hospitals and campuses. A 31-year-old female doctor was found dead in the early hours last Friday at Arjikar Medical College. She had been resting in a seminar room during a 36-hour shift. One man has been arrested and charged with the crime, but protesters say that that's not enough. Widespread anger at the failure of tough laws to deter violence against women has fueled protests by doctors and women's groups across India.
Recapping the top story, the South African Health Professionals Collaboration says it will not be signing the President's Health Compact. Headlines at 3:30.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Smith welcomes top talent to Betway SA20, and China says that Pirates need to restore Champions League pride. More details at 3:30.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat it from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. #We love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
African teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Do we have a show today? Absolutely. It certainly can't be a EFF MK party show, but it could well be an issue regarding the soon-to-be elected new mayor of the city of Joburg. That could well happen by the time the show is over. Not just that, we'll talk about the Marikana massacre, specifically referring to reparations. Dr. Alan Busak is my Friday fireside chat guest. Do not miss that from 5 to 6 p.m. The case for and against South Sudan, holding its first ever election since gaining independence. And then, Tulasizwe Simelane, you know the name, he's the host of the Morning Brief, which is the new show on SFM Radio, the new breakfast show starting in September. All that and a whole lot more here on the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome indeed to the show. And whether you're listening on radio or on live streaming or the SABC Plus app, just great that you're a part of it. You can engage live with some of the biggest issues that concern you right away, because ultimately, this is the National Pulse and you play a role in driving the big issues here. To call in, 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp, so voice notes, 0614 104 107. You can also text us on that WhatsApp number. And by the way, talking about WhatsApp, do join in if you're keen to join the WhatsApp, the National Pulse WhatsApp channel. Just WhatsApp us. Just indicate that you want to join the channel and we will do just that. And as always, if people are up to sending pictures of where they are right now with their dial locked into SAFM, tell us where you are in the country, in the world. I'll give you a thumbs up and we'll give you a shout out as well. Lots to talk about, starting with Marikana right after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, I wonder, It's amazing. I must tell you this. Yesterday after the show, myself and my production team, Keys and Chemba, spoke about what may happen today regarding Floyd Shivambu, as you know, now part of the MK party. But, nothing more dramatic has happened. We thought maybe you'll get new announcements. The one thing we do know is that Carl Niehaus has been very clear about, hey, I'm staying put. Very clear that all speculation that he was leaving. Remember, himself and Jacob Zuma have been colleagues, mates, supporters of each other for a long, long time. So it was like a shoo-in to say clearly he would go, right? But clearly he is not going. He's like, no, committing himself to the EFF. But just while we're at it, just think about this year, right? That do you have a sense that now that you've got a few hours more to reflect on what has actually happened regarding Floyd Shivambu, as well as the EFF, as well as the MK party, how do you think this is going to play out? Not in a day's time. How do you think it's going to play out in, let's say, 2 years' time? When we reflect 2 years from now, what do you think we will be seeing? And I'd love to know about that, right? Okay, and as well as if you want to talk about the Marikana issue and issue of reparations, and particularly if you have had relatives, and I hope the answer is no, you don't have relatives, but if you've had relatives who've been affected by the Marikana massacre, then perhaps to share with us how their lives have changed as well, because I think often we talk on a macro level with some of the very, very personal issues and how it relates to you and your family and your story often does get forgotten, okay? So if you have a thought on that, I'd like you to share that with us as well. Otherwise, I'm just trying to think about what others have said regarding the realignment. Oh yes, this is an interesting one. Gayton McKenzie, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, very clear about saying that the South African javelin
silver medalist winner who had made the point that she had a family to support her because there was not enough money and support from SASCOC, and he said, I will promise you, I'll give you my commitment that we will actually pay back all the monies that your parents paid for you, because now you're this medalist, which means the return on investment is there, right? Okay, so that's another thought in terms of, do you think he's right about that? Because it also reflects a point that we brought up a few days ago, to say if you want to have more silver or gold medal winners, what then is your investment in the excellence that comes through from our country? Or do we just hope for the best? Far too many people have just fallen by the wayside. In fact, even Tatiana Smith said the same thing, that just many others have just fallen away and then never succeeded purely because of the lack of finances, and that not everybody has the money, not every family has the money to be able to do just that. Right, we'll talk about South Sudan, then we'll get back to the issue of Marikana right after this.
Amidst misinformation and disinformation, where can we find reliable news? Turn to radio, your trusted source for truthful updates. For over 3 decades, we've upheld integrity as a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Count on us for news you can trust. Say no to fake news. Radio, keeping it real since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters. Tune in, trust, and stay informed.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
There we are. So we had to change things around a bit. We'll certainly catch up on the issue of the Marikana massacre and the reparations thereof in a few minutes' time, right? But let's now talk about another important issue, the issue of Sudan, or South Sudan to be specific, right? Because as you know, that country achieved independence in 2011, I understand, and I've just been told they're having their first ever election. Well, so we think, because there's a case of them having their first ever election, and there's also a counter case to say don't have that election. If that sounds rather confusing to you, well, it's certainly confusing to me. Let's get the expert to tell us all about it. Nixon Katembe is the African Affairs commentator and does great work on Channel Africa. Nixon, good chatting to you once again. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to SFM listeners.
Thank you. So let's talk about South Sudan. So I was surprised that it's their first ever election plan, December 22, I think it is, right, since independence.
Yes, that's correct, because of the situation and the security of the country immediately after independence. They went into a civil war, and that civil war has not been resolved up until to date because of the kind of a protagonist that are involved in a conflict from the current deputy president, who is also former president, Dr. Riek Machar, who was at the basis of the conflict after he was sacked in 2013. Since then, the conflict has continued over these years, the negotiations after negotiations, talks after talk. I recall that he once ran here in South Africa, and talks began in Addis Ababa under the auspices of IGAD, as well as the assistance of the South African government as well, which led to now the current arrangement that is trying to find a way of holding elections. But the problem must still continue in a sense that both Kiir and Salva and Riek Machar are not getting along in terms of a division of government, the allocation of different portfolio, but also the broader question of a political unity within the country. And along the way, there has been opportunistic rebel group that emerges because the country got independence on the backdrop of a long time civil war immediately after the death of John Garang. And I think that is what is currently happening, because the 2013 conflict led a new dynamics to the conflict, where the two main ethnic group in South Sudan ended up conflicting each other and fighting along tribal lines between the Dinka and the Nuer. So that has been the nature of politics currently, but it goes back to a long history of that particular country. If you look at Dr. Riek Machar, at one point he was a government minister in the Sudanese government, but he came along to join the SPLM under John Garang, and it's actually, interestingly, the current president, Salva Kiir, who convinced John Garang at the time to allow Dr. Riek Machar to join the SPLM.
Wow.
So it's a long conflict with a long history that we can exhaust here.
So what we do know is that a country that attained independence, and by the way performed well in the basketball or the Olympic Games, I'm just thinking about that now, but by and large is a country that hasn't been able to, it's still crawling. And that's because of infighting amongst each other, which is really, really sad, right? So now this election has been set. Then who set the date for the election? And I understand there's been a call from different parties to saying yes to the election, no to the election.
Yes, there have been a different call if you look at the configuration of government between the current president, Dr. Riek Machar, as I said. And both are not agreeing on how the government should go. And yesterday rather, President Salva Kiir had just signed a law that makes it illegal for anyone, for example, to have a dissenting view, and which will lead actually to people being arrested without a trial, without.
And what does dissenting view mean? Like dissenting of government, or dissenting of political party, or the president?
But basically, there is a sort of an amalgamation, what would say, a lack of a difference between the government and the political party SPLM, because the SPLM has been divided between these two leaders, the SPLM that adhered to Dr. Riek Machar and the other one that is along the line with President Salva Kiir. So I think the South Sudanese question is more or less within the difference between these two individuals. That is number one. It has then turned out to be an ethnic conflict. And third, then the military disintegration during the 2013 conflict led to other rebel groups being created by generals, because those generals have been people who have fought all their lives during the conflict with Sudan.
Okay, so as we get now to the break, just to wrap up then, what do you feel? Should they have an election?
I think certainly it's now for the South Sudanese political leaders to realize that change need to happen in the country. They need to give democratic principles a chance to allow the country's population to choose their leaders beyond the liberation struggle and the movement under SPLM. Okay. And I think that is the challenge that they are battling with, who lead the democratic process in its current form, where there is tensions. And
one quick answer as we wrap up: the counter argument that an election will actually cause even further friction in Sudanese society.
I think that argument is misplaced. If you go back to the history of South Sudan itself, it's a country that need to allow itself to nurture these democratic principles, so that at least the people can breathe a sigh of relief. There have been since the War of Independence from 1980s up until to date.
Well, there you are. Let's see what happens. Either way, I think you're spot on. You can't remove from people the right to choose their leadership. Don't you agree? South Sudan, what happens next?
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we've had, people are commenting on some of the issues that we raised. One regarding the issue of minimum wage.
All the listeners, I like to say this, man. How about if the government can make a plan for workers, especially in the mine industry? At least the minimum wage must start by 25,000, because those people is working with the dangerous areas, the life is on risk, so the money that he's getting now is very little, like seriously. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, again, that issue of money is all so relative to available monies, for example, and what the company does. So it's one thing simply saying they must just earn more, otherwise or else, or it's another thing simply saying that you cannot give them more. I think somewhere between the two is the reality, isn't it?
Ashraf Lukman Captain Ashraf, Captain is absolutely correct. Our family should be reimbursed. Not even because she got a silver medal, Olympic silver medal. It's because she was part of the Olympic team. Any athlete, for that matter, who went on their own cost should be reimbursed. I mean, it's embarrassment on the SASCOC side, man. It is poor. But that department has been poor for so long. I mean, President Ramaphosa should overhaul that department as well. And with regards to the Americana, where's the reparation for the 10 people that was killed leading up to that massacre? Who's going to pay their families? Because they were killed by the miners. Who's paying for them? Thank you.
Okay, there we are. People killed by police, people killed by the miners, killed by the security. It's all very complicated. In all, 34 mine workers died. Remember that at Marikana, at the Lonmin mine. This is 12 years ago today. Now, by the way, the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Schreiber, he has spoken about Home Affairs clamping down on ID fraud while upholding the rule of law. He released a statement just after 3 o'clock. This is what he said.
The Department of Home Affairs has today taken decisive action against fraud involving identity books and cards. Through a publication in the Government Gazette, the Department has called upon persons who are currently in possession of a blocked ID to provide written reasons within 30 days for why their ID should not be cancelled. The submissions must be sent to sylvia.parsa@dha.gov.za. The department will also undertake a sustained social media advertising campaign to provide the public with an opportunity to make representations. Through this move, Home Affairs aims to both resolve the decades-old issue of wrongfully blocked IDs while reducing the number of fraudulent documents in circulation. Some of the IDs were originally blocked as far back as 2005 for a range of reasons, including because the biometric system flagged the documents as duplicates, held by illegal immigrants, or because the ID holder had passed away. By providing the public with the opportunity to make representation, the department intends to end the inconvenience caused by the block to holders of legitimate IDs while cancelling IDs held by unauthorised persons. The gazetting of this measure is also in furtherance of compliance with a court order handed down earlier this year, which required the department to undertake a fair administrative process to differentiate between IDs that have been wrongfully blocked and IDs that represent genuine security threats. I encourage members of the public to make use of this opportunity to ensure that we conduct a just and equitable process to unblock IDs that have been wrongfully blocked. At the same time, the gazetting of these decisive measures underscores our commitment to clamp down on fraud and to move with urgency to resolve long-standing challenges, all while upholding the rule of law.
Okay, so that's coming from the minister. In fact, it's interesting. I mean, see, the Minister of Electricity has been giving us a briefing, and we're going to update that story as well pretty shortly. And I've mentioned Gayton McKenzie, the minister there as well. Lots of comments on that. Here's another one. Ashraf, here's my take on Floyd Shivambu's trajectory in the next 2 years. So you see, here's the master strategist. Dubisani says from Velcom, Shivambu's departure from the EFF and joining of MK may signal a shift in South Africa's opposition politics. He is likely to consolidate his power within MK and push for more radical economic policies, potentially growing the party's support base. Shivambu's influence could lead to MK becoming a more significant player in opposition politics, but he also faces challenges in rebuilding trust and navigating internal dynamics. Okay, that's one thought. Some may argue, MK supporters may argue with all of that on the one basis only. Don't think of us as an opposition political party much longer. There's not me saying it, I'm saying they may say that, meaning they would want to work themselves into power. Let's get further comments. Taki in Limpopo. Hi, Taki, what's your point?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Look, man, you said something about what will happen 2 years from now. I think it's a very long time to even be able to make a speculation or guesswork around that. But all what I can tell you is that as it stands right now, the movement of Shivambu to MK, it's a question of do they need him or he needs them. I think this is a question. And then, in fact, if you see what has happened recently with the MK, they have, whatsoever the reason may have been, a number of MPs have been recused of their, responsibilities, which therefore implies that there is now a created group of people who are disgruntled with the MK, and perhaps when Malema says that there's going to be some people to accompany to leave EFF, perhaps it shows us that really the move of the what you call was he saw it coming, actually, I think, and also the fact being that he might be willing to fish from those that have left the MK unceremoniously, who have been recused from their parliament.
Wait a minute, I hear you. You see, here's the thing, right? And I said this yesterday in my conversation with the spokesperson for the MK party. There's no way Floyd Shivambu would leave the EFF for a junior backbencher position. I mean, that's a given. It just cannot be that he would just leave and be a backbencher. So something significant has to be promised to him now. Whether it's good for him or good for the MK, which is something I asked yesterday, is now less important than the reality, which is they've decided to work together already. It's a done deal. It's not a negotiation any longer. It's happening. The question is, what we don't know is what position will he hold, and how will his position change the trajectory of the MK party, and how will it change the trajectory of the EFF? And I do believe, to end it, 2 years in politics is actually a very, very, very short time. And I say that because of a municipal election coming up pretty soon. Thanks for that call. Appreciate you giving your input. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30.
Thanks, Ashraf. In the headlines, the South African Health Professionals Collaboration says it will not be signing the President's Health Compact. The Manzini Magistrates Court in the Kingdom of Eswatini has assured Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande that they will be safe when transported to South Africa. This after Magistrate David Kumalo ruled that the duo be extradited to the country to face murder charges. They're accused of killing Keenan aka Forbes and Tibello Motswane and two others last year. And the World Health Organization says it fears that the discovery of the new Mpox strain outside Africa will lead wealthy countries to hang on to their vaccine stockpiles. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedford 2 has a crash before Giluli's Interchange. queuing traffic on both routes, and SKM Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N2 northbound queuing towards the M41 Gateway exit, and the M13 eastbound in Pinetown. Roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at the N3 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the M5 northbound slow moving towards the N1 Koeberg interchange, the M3 northbound queuing at Paradise Road, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapele.
Right, to me it's Friday afternoon, which means it's a weekend of sport, but of course sport starts today as well, isn't it? There's live sport too.
Absolutely, a lot of live action to look forward to. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Starting off with cricket, SA20 League Commissioner Graham Smith says that he's looking forward to see the exceptional talent that will feature in the third season of SA's T20 competition that starts on the 9th of January next year. Among the stars to have signed up includes the likes of Ben Stokes, Joe Root, Rashid Khan, amongst others, playing in the tournament, and next year promises to be no different. As things stand, the team have between 14 and 17 players on their roster, and the squads will be completed at the auction in Cape Town on the 1st of October. Each franchise must choose a rookie, while 3 of the franchises still have a wild card to announce before the 30th of December. And talking about live action, looking forward to the second day of the second test between the West Indies and the Proteas, and the Windies will be looking to pick up where they left off. SA reduced the West Indies to 97 for 7 at stumps yesterday, leaving the hosts 63 runs behind with only 3 first innings wickets in hand. Earlier on, the Proteas were bowled out for 160, and play gets underway at 4 p.m. this afternoon. Then in rugby, the Lions have called on Sibaba Lekoma to replace Springbok flank Ruan Venter in one of the 3 changes to the pack for the clash with Western Province tomorrow. The Lions will be captained by lock Ruben Schumann, who has returned from a suspension. Meanwhile, Mornay Brandon gets his opportunity to start at hooker, with regular skipper Yaku Fasahi providing cover on the bench. There is also a return for tight head prop Asenati, who will make his first appearance at the Currie Cup campaign from the bench. In football, as Orlando Pirates begin their CAF Champions League campaign this weekend, goalkeeper Sipho Chaine has stressed the need to once again become the regular features among the continent's best. Pirates face Madagascan champions Disciples and Mauritius in the first leg of the preliminary stage on Sunday. And after failing to make the group stages last season, Chaine says that it's about time that the Buccaneers make their mark in the competition.
Yes, definitely. I think as a club like Orlando Pirates, a big brand like this, to represent a big club like this on the African continent, where we play amongst the best on the continent, I think it should be a norm. It should be something that we always strive to do every season.
Elsewhere, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag says that he's concerned that his team is not ready for today's Premier League opener against Fulham. New signings Matthijs de Ligt and Nusser Mazraoui will be in the squad, but they only arrived yesterday, and they have had a limited chance to train with their new teammates, leaving Ten Hag with a selection dilemma for the match at Old Trafford. Meanwhile, defender Luke Shaw has been sidelined with a calf injury, while new defender Lenny Yoro was ruled out for 3 months at the beginning of August, and forward Rasmus Højlund has a hamstring problem.
It's true, there's not the pre-season, but is where you can in 5-6 weeks work on the team. It's very complicated, but we had the USA Tour squad, then we add the players who did the Euros and Copa America, and now new signings, and now we have to make a team from it. And that team is not ready, but the league starts, and there are more managers to deal with this problem. We definitely have this problem, but still we have some rules, some principles, and we have to make a start. We can't hide ourselves, we can't run away from it, so we have to deal with it.
Interesting comments over there. But moving on to tennis, second-ranked defending champion Coco Gauff crashed out in her opening match at the Cincinnati Open, falling to Yulia Pinseva 6-4, 2-6 and 6-4. And Pinseva next takes on Paula Badosa, who defeated Anna 6-3 and 6-2. Well, that's it. It's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
So listen, you got a football season coming up. The English Premiership starts tonight. Did you want to pick up United Fulham? Any thoughts on what the manager said now?
Listen, from my side, hearing a manager speak like that, I feel like it makes me nervous. If I were a Manchester United fan, I'd be nervous. But I guess other people on the other side could say, listen, at least the coach is honest with us, so we don't have to expect a lot.
You know what,
as a Manchester United fan, what do you think?
No, I must say, I saw that headline, and my first response was a very typically South African word, which I don't think I want to pronounce live on the air now, okay? But in reading or listening to the fuller story, he's saying we're not ready because it's
of the circumstances around.
But in fact, most of the teams are also not ready. Because that is said.
But would you want your coach to say it out, or your manager to say it out loud and say, yo guys, it's the first game of the season and we honestly not ready?
I think he's downplaying it. That's really what it is. It's expectations, because he knows it's not so much whether they're ready, it's how many fit players they got. They already got unfit players.
Of course.
I think it's downplaying just expectations. But privately, he's like, we've got to win this game. I have no doubt about it.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, more sport in an hour. Ready or not?
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we've got, in fact, we'll chat to Tula Sizwe Simelane coming up around 10 to 4, right? So listen out for that. Some of the comments we spoke about in terms of the MK positioning. Here's a response to that.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Watch the space. MK is going to lead this country, and our premier for Limpopo is going to be none other than Floyd Chimvambo, chairperson of Limpopo, MK and Premier, future Premier. Thank you, Sia from Kamalaki.
Thanks for that. Sia certainly is very ambitious, and maybe so is his party. We'll see how that plays out, right? Let's get to other issues that's linking South Africa on the one hand to Eswatini around the issue of AKA Forbes. Remember that? So the Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini ruled that two siblings, Siyabonga and Malusi, in the Monday will be extradited to South Africa. They are wanted in the country for the murder of Keenan Forbes, or AKA, and his friend, that's Tibbs Tabelo Motswane. Now, the siblings are accused of 2 other murders in 2 completely separate cases. So, what does this extradition process entail? What does it mean? What is the impact of it all? Let's find out with Mpumelelo Zikalala, who's a legal practitioner. Appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Jonas. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So help us understand this, because sometimes extraditions between countries are enforced and they're effective, and sometimes you hear about no extradition treaties and nothing happens. What happens in this case?
In this case, there is a treaty. So there is an agreement to say if there's someone that you want from your side, we will make an application. And if you see that there's prima facie evidence that says indeed they've done the bad deed in which they're being alleged, and that they're going to receive a fair trial, please send them over to us. We promise that you're going to treat them correctly, however, within the bounds of the law. So it was the same thing in this case with Eswatini, where there is a treaty that does exist, and then all they had to do was to make an application, show that evidence, and also show that when they come to a South African court, they would receive, for example, a free legal representation or legal representation of their choice. They are going to be prosecuted in terms of the South African Constitution, also the Criminal Procedure Act, and any other applicable law. If you are able to display that, then the chances of your application being successful are good. And I think in this case, that's why the application was granted.
And when is this likely to happen, the actual extradition, the practical extradition?
Even though I'm not sure of the time, but it would be as soon as possible, because after that order has been received, the authorities within Eswatini would want to hand over those individuals to South Africa as soon as possible. So we might see something which is going to happen maybe in the upcoming week, but I don't think it's going beyond the next 14 days, because they would want to get hold of them as soon as possible, take them to a South African court, so they are charged, and then they're things like your bail application and all that can then be applicable to them. But most importantly, you want to join them to the other courts as soon as possible, and make sure that all the statements which are going to be utilized in their trial are given to the legal rep, so there are no unnecessary delays which are going to be endured when the main trial actually starts.
Maybe just, if you can, just go back to your understanding of why these 2 siblings in particular, Siyabonga and Malusi, in the Monday themselves, are being, potentially charged for murder. What happened regarding their position?
I think that they are linked in terms of being one of the individuals or some of the individuals that participated in the planning or in the execution. Remember, as alleged by the police, they got to be a person that drove, the person that provided the guns, the person that would have provided or exchanged the money or sourced the individuals that would have actually executed in the killing. So there's got to be a link in which they are linked to those, and it would have been your cell phone evidence and all the other evidence that is going to be utilized in court that would have been displayed by the court. So I think it is in those instances in which the South African authorities or law enforcement agencies are saying it may have been a number of people that were involved. You were part of them. You were part and parcel. We want to bring you back in South Africa, and there's a doctrine of common purpose that applies to you. You had a common purpose. We want to punish you in as much as you want to punish your other friends or maybe relatives.
And just lastly, from your side, is there anything else you'd be looking out for in particular when they finally are extradited?
I think the manner in which they're going to be handled, whether they're going to receive or whether they actually do have legal representation available in South Africa, or they would want to apply for legal aid, and of course the amount of time in which it's going to take up until they're joined in the main matter. And it would be interesting to note their specific role in terms of the whole sequence of events as to what was it, and whether there is a potential of them turning state witness, and if they do, then it would be easier to link all other core accused, thus making the work of the prosecution much, much easier than what it would have been if they all plead not guilty and say, bring on the evidence that you have against me, I'm going to dispute it to the team.
Okay, and that's where we can leave it. Appreciate your time. Mpumelelo Zikalala is a legal practitioner referring to 2 people, Siyabonga and Malusi, in the Monday, who will be extradited to South Africa regarding the Keenan Forbes, or aka Forbes, case, that tragedy when himself as well as Tibbs Tabelo Motswane were killed. Let's see if we can take I may take a call or 2 before we get to Lasizwe Simelani. Here's a comment. I'd like to applaud the Minister of Sport for being ambitious. I also implore him to at least try and compensate some victims of crimes he might still remember to have offended from transparency. Okay, I get exactly what you're saying. Let's get to Durban now with Ntlantla. Ntlantla, hi. No, we don't have Atlanta. Okay, we'll connect with that pretty shortly. There's another one regarding the issue of that we raised, Gayton and Marikana too.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Concrete in Pizana, aired out. Mr. Ramaphosa promised Marikana, the community of Marikana, that he will visit them, but he never did that. Mistake that he did is to promise. If he knew that he was not going to visit them, he was not supposed to promise them. That's point number one. Point number two is, I would love to see Gayton Mackenzie or Herman Mashaba becoming Minister of Home Affairs. Because here in South Africa we have got jobs, but jobs are occupied by non-South Africans. What is his name? The Minister of Imisebenzi, Thulani Nxesi is sleeping on duty. He needs somebody to tell him he's sleeping on duty. That guy. Non-South Africans are working. He's keeping quiet. He doesn't say anything about that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. In fact, Gayton today already said that if you now give me the job of Labour Minister of Home Affairs, rather, I don't want it. Let me deal with the sports issue completely. Solomon, let's get your opinion on Marikana. Hi, Solomon.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to listeners.
Good afternoon.
No, my call, I wanted to make an input.
Yeah, go ahead.
Move by Shivambu from EFF to MK.
Okay.
I think Shivambu is jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Apparently, his move demonstrates a frustrated politician, albeit him having not expressed and disclosed why are the reason for him to move from EFF to MK. Why do I say this? I say this precisely because EFF and MK are organizations which are led by cult leadership. Not everybody can say anything. And knowing Shivambu, his background from the Youth League of the ANC, and in the ANC in general, which has got and cherish a value of open and transparent engagement, robust internal democratic processes. He is not going to survive in the MK, which is known that is just an organization which does not have a life outside Zuma, and that has been clearly shown by the MK postponing or delaying to establish the structures, because it fears one reality of having within its ranks members who are disgruntled, or rather who are not happy about the outcome of the conference. Either way, so then they cannot live to see that happening. So they are riding on this euphoria to say the ANC has deserted its own historic mandate, but they cannot grow into an organization which takes up responsibility. So in my view, Shivambu is not going to survive. Known that he is an opinionated, free-thinking, critical, and a person who challenges things, and that he's not going to get from the MK party.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's an interesting point. I think, first of all, Shivambu knows exactly what he signed up for. He can't be blinded by why is he joining them. Absolutely. On the other hand, how that plays out, we don't know. Like any other, employer, employee, political party, sports teams, it's when they get together, what's the level of chemistry and connection there? We don't really know. And maybe your last point is interesting, which is, at the moment they are a collaboration of disgruntled people, ANC disgruntled supporters, all of them, in fact, to a large degree. But do they not see a bigger vision at some stage? That vision may well materialize, isn't it? Okay, talking about vision, we chat to Thulasizwe Simelane right after this.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Well, of course, if you're a listener to SFM, you would know that that morning show has been anchored by Stephen Huertas for, 6 years. Well, he then stepped down to move on a few weeks ago. It's been, John Carrick has been standing in since then, of course, which means it's up to management to try and replace Stephen Huertas by and large. So I thought, you know what, let's see how we can do this, right? So, Tulasizwe, we've got you on the line. Hello, firstly.
Hi, Ashraf, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Listen, here's my story, okay? So, we need a new morning host, right? And we've already got the show's name called The Morning Brief. And I thought what will be a cool thing to do is to get you to audition for the show and see if we can give you the job.
Oh, Ashraf, firstly, it's good to hear your voice, man. It's been such a long time, and I listen to you and I follow the conversations that you lead and the work that you do around championing South Africa. So I'm a big fan of that work. But also on a more professional level, it is absolutely great to talk to you because you know the story, Ashraf. You know that SAFM, the SABC, is the cradle of where it all started, way before I was Thulasizwe Simelane, known for other things. I was the young 19-year-old, I wasn't 19 actually, I was 21 in 2001 when I first walked into that, into the building, Radio Park building at SABC, at SAFM Current Affairs, and you have been part of that journey from the start.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're right about that. I just joined SFM at that time. I was doing work at 5FM too, then joined up, and then I saw this lighty, but clearly this very ambitious lighty, and I'm talking about yourself, and I mean, you've done amazing things since then, right? But let's then fast forward to where we are now. So, in terms of I asked you about, auditioning for the morning brief, just your immediate response was like a pitch as to why you should be here. So the good news is you will be here. You will be here, 2nd of September, I understand, day one?
Yeah, absolutely, Ashraf. It is the 2nd of December. And the thinking around the name, The Morning Brief, is that our listeners, as we say, leading the conversation as SAFM, our listeners are leaders in their own rights in various spheres of life. Now, if you know, every leader will have, a team around them that gives them that brief, that final brief before you go and take on the world, before you make decisions in the boardroom, before you make decisions in other spheres of life on a daily basis. We want to be that brief that our listeners will get before taking on the world and making the big decisions. They need to be informed by having received that, that kind of, sort of like in a folder to say, here's your brief for this morning.
Go and
now
do your
go
job.
on and do your job.
You're on
So it is the
assignment.
2nd of September.
Now, I mean,
Absolutely.
if I look at your career, I mean, you've been at the SABC, you then moved on. Was it ENCA, Newsroom Africa? You did your law degree, I understand. You've done the Comrades a couple of times. Goodness, I know how you managed all of that. You've also been then as a corporate communications manager in the private spaces, and now you've come back. So what's your motivation? I would understand why the SAFM business manager or Radio 14 manager Tony Soglo would ask you to join us, but why would you say yes? What was it for you?
Ashraf, there's something, I've framed it very nicely in my head, actually. I've made peace now with the fact that no matter how hard I try, I just cannot leave broadcasting, radio in particular. And I'm at peace now. I'm no longer fighting it. I'm no longer battling or, wiggling or trying to get out of it. It is in me. It is a deep-seated passion. It is the passion that fueled this young man that I was growing up in the village of Dundonald in Mpumalanga. I always dreamt about being on the radio, at first not being clear about what I wanted to do on the radio. But when I started to crystallize what it was that I wanted to do on the radio, it was SAFM that gave me that sense. And Ashraf, I can go on and on about all the big names, the veterans, the broadcasting royalty that has sat on that chair that I now get to be privileged to sit on. So from my side, I now accept that as much as I'm on a journey as well in terms of my legal career, I now accept that I might have to have a conversation that says, even when I'm practicing as an attorney, I will probably always be on the radio, and that's a conversation to have with the authorities there to say, I can't give this up.
Well, there you are. I mean, you'll be pleased to know I'm literally keeping your seat warm as I talk to you, because you literally sit on this very same seat that I am on now. So, I mean, there's clearly huge expectations, right? You've already spoken glowingly about the impact of SAFM, right? How do you, what's your role in terms of making the impact? Because why I say that, SAFM is a unique station. It really is. I've said so before. It allows us to speak to the entire nation in one fell swoop. I mean, that's why this show is called the National Pulse, so we reflect the pulse of the nation daily. On the other hand, if the station is unique and pretty special, that morning show, the expectations are huge, right? So how do you intend to deliver to those expectations?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ashraf. And I must firstly say I've been overwhelmed by the response. And it's a response that's in line with, how I've experienced the generosity of spirit of South Africans and just how supportive most South Africans have been. Some asking the right questions, and on day one of the show, we will tackle those questions because there are no sacred cows and there will be no elephant in the room, specifically that whole issue around my role in Takatso. I'm more than happy to open that conversation on day one. So, but I'm saying that the response has been overwhelming, Ashraf, and I'm humbled by it. In terms of what I'm aiming for, my sense is that I now bring a lot more experience, Ashraf. My training, my legal studies weigh in on that. I hope I'll be able to ask better questions, more pointed questions that get the answers and realize when I've not gotten the answer and know how to press differently until I get the answers. My experience in corporate has also taught me a whole lot of things that I just did not know about. It's been a crash course MBA over the past 2 years or so, and I'm hoping that will enhance the conversations that we have around the economy, how business works. But also, Ashraf, importantly, I'm looking forward to engaging, as you say, and Stephen Grootes also said this to me, that the uniqueness of SAFM is that it's a national station. It's the reach is national and it's English and as well as talk format, and you will not get that combination except at SAFM. And I look forward to hearing from our listeners far and wide and engaging them. The ideas refinery, put our ideas through the refiner's fire so that the best ideas emerge. Let 100 schools of thought contend.
And as we get to news time, I take it you've been listening to all the different shows in the last few days in anticipation of your own debut, if I can call it that.
Oh, absolutely, Ashraf. I always listen anyway. As I say, I mean, the station has been part of my journey from day one. It's been since the days, and I always go back to this, maybe, I don't know, I always go back to radio for the well-informed, if you remember those days, to where we are today, where we are talking about leading the conversation, because where we are, we need that dialogue to be taken forward. We need that conversation and having the conversation that matters.
Well, in fact, now we say, having the conversation that matters or the conversation that moves you. So here's the thing to as we wrap up now. One is I've always been a colleague of yours, then a former colleague, and now we are back to colleagues once again. But I've always been a chummy of yours, and you know that, right? And I'm happy to say that this chummy of yours will be listening to you every morning, September 2nd, without fail. So now you know.
Thank you so much, Ashraf.
There we are. Tula Sizwe Simelane. Do not miss that show. The newly appointed host of the breakfast show on SAFM called The Morning Brief. Why brief? Because, well, when you do anything, a big assignment, you get a brief. Deliver on that brief. Will he deliver? I certainly expect it. Thanks for that, Tula Sizwe. We'll chat to him in September. I know that. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories: the health professionals' collaboration against the President's Health Compact and concerns over Crime rates in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. Good afternoon. The South African Health Professionals Collaboration says it will not be signing the President's Health Compact. The group, which represents more than 25,000 private and public sector healthcare workers, says the compact is essentially a bid to lock in support for the National Health Insurance Act rather than a genuine effort to address the country's healthcare challenges. SAHPC's spokesperson, Dr. Simon Strawn, says the Health Compact is not an accurate reflection of the discussions that took place during the health summits.
At these summits, the issue around the NHI being the sole solution for the country's health crisis was never an item on the agenda for open and honest discussion. So to present a health compact now, it is supposed to reflect the proceedings of the health summit, and in that document to say that the NHI is the only and sole solution, that is not an accurate reflection, and for that reason we're saying we can't sign this.
Residents of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape have aired their concerns regarding the high crime rate in the city. This at the backdrop of the crime imbizo led by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in Gqeberha. Mchunu has addressed the residents. They've shared complaints that vary from robbery, organized crime, hijackings and kidnapping to poor visibility of police and lack of resources. One of the residents is Winnie Vokwana.
I'm a teacher at the Kwazakele school, a primary school, whereby we are not safe. Each and every day when we go to school, we don't know whether we'll be coming back to our places because we are fearing there are lots of burglary.
Angry residents of Lerato Park in Kimberley in the Northern Cape have threatened to burn down an alleged initiation school structure that has been erected near their shacks. The residents say since the construction of the structure, they've been living in fear of initiates who are roaming the area naked. Residents accuse their councillor and the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department of allowing what they call a bogus initiation school in their area without consultation.
When people are actually recognized when they are striking or when they are burning something.
The councillor was supposed to come and consult with the community before I implemented this thing. I got to buy that structure more.
Because people come to my place as a police official, always they come to knock at my door, seeing people naked and stuff. Even me myself, I saw the guys. They were half naked.
The principal of the alleged initiation school, Mohane Masilo, has refuted the residents' allegations. He says the structure is not an initiation school but a council office for boys.
I refuse to admit that the boys walk around naked. This is not an initiation school. It's a council for boys. People do not understand. I am adamant I have not established an initiation school yet.
Number 2 and number 1.
The Manzini Magistrates Court in the Kingdom of Eswatini has assured Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande that they will be safe when transported to South Africa. This after Magistrate David Kumalo ruled that the duo be extradited to the country to face their murder charges. They're accused of killing Keenan aka Forbes and Tibello Tibbs Mutswane and 2 others last year. The siblings previously told the court through their lawyer that they fear for their lives due to taxi violence in KwaZulu-Natal. They further claimed that some police officials were colluding with their rival taxi association. Magistrate Kumalo has ordered the South African Human Rights Commission to ensure that the rights of the Ndimandes are upheld.
Now to order the South African Human Rights Commission, acting in terms of Section 2 of the South African Human Rights Commission Act of 2013, to ensure respect, protection and observance of the rights of the respondents as they get conveyed to South Africa, yes, including when they will be in the correctional services.
And finally, the World Health Organization says it fears that the discovery of the new Mpox strain outside Africa will lead wealthy countries to hang on to their vaccine stockpiles. It says richer countries should share them. Sweden detected the first new Mpox variant outside Africa yesterday. The BBC's Imogen Folks reports.
Later today, we're expecting them to issue recommendations for countries to deal with this health emergency of international concern. But we did hear from the Red Cross this morning, and one of the things they are emphasising is for countries in Europe, be happy that Sweden was so quick to identify this case and tell us all about it. And the other thing is, be generous. It's the wealthy countries that have the stockpiles of vaccine. This is not COVID. We know what this disease is. We have a vaccine, we have treatments. Don't make the mistake of COVID and stockpile vaccines that you then have to destroy when you could have shared them to countries that need them.
Recapping the top story, the South African Health Professionals Collaboration says it will not be signing the President's Health Compact. For SAFM News, I'm Utsile Saku. I'll be back with headlines at 4:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, It's a Birth closes in on Matfield record. Perth lights up as Du Plessis and Adesanya face off, and Poland to bid for Summer Olympics in 2040 or 2044. More details at 4:30.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3 is a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, the Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound has delays near Grasmere services. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a stationary vehicle reported at Buccleuch interchange. The N1 northbound in Pretoria has a crash after Rigel Avenue exit. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Gilulis interchange, and the N12 R24 westbound has a crash reported before Gilulis interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 Gateway exit, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, Baton Cross Street outbound slow moving towards the elevated freeway, Okavongo Road in Brackenfell slow moving at the N1 highway, and Francie van Zyl Drive in Parow slow moving at Connaught Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So there you have it. What are the big issues that moves the National Pulse today? And based on that, we have the conversations that should certainly move you. You can comment, as you know, 0614 104 107. That's if you want to send a voice note or text message. Otherwise, to call in, it's 086 000 2032. And feel free to post a picture wherever you are on social media, on our X or Twitter platform, as well as on Facebook. Tell us where you are, what you're doing, a picture of you with your dial locked onto SFM. It'll be great to see that, okay? Right, so we know we should be talking about Joburg electing a new mayor. I understand that is underway right now. Whether we're going to know about that in the show, I hope so. We will find out. We will be chatting for sure to Dr. Alan Busak. He's part of what we do every Friday now that the election season is over. which is called the Fireside Chat. So we'll talk to him for an hour. You must not miss that. A bit of seriousness, a bit of chill stuff, the type of conversations that people and friends have over firesides, you know, when they argue and they praise and they banter, but they also ask some difficult questions. So that's going to come up. Looking forward to that, right? As far as Tulasizwe Simelane is concerned, I see people are commenting, welcoming him to the show or to SAFM. I'll certainly play some of those comments as well just now. Let's get to the issue of energy and where we are with regard to, you know, electricity and many other things. Now, you may be aware that the Minister for Electricity and Energy, Josiento Ramakgopa, he outlined South Africa's nuclear program in the future energy mix at a very special media briefing in Pretoria earlier today. One of the things he spoke about, and it's a key thing really, is the withdrawal of a ministerial determination for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of new nuclear capacity. So the energy expert Chris Yellen attended the briefing. Let's get more from him. Chris, appreciate your time. Hi.
Hi, Asha, and to your listeners too.
Thank you. Let's pick up on that. One of the key things is the withdrawal of a ministerial determination for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of new nuclear capacity. What does that mean?
Well, it means that, at least for now, the procurement of the 2,500 megawatts of new nuclear power that had been planned cannot go ahead. And I think the Minister is painfully aware that there are, in fact, 3 legal challenges underway at the moment, 2 of which, one by Earthlife Africa and one by SAPSIA, are considered substantial by the Minister. And in fact, the Minister said he actually agrees with the rationale presented by these 2 NGOs, who, by the way, successfully challenged the previous nuclear procurement of 9,600 megawatts of new nuclear power in South Africa about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And he says they've got a point. And so he is reluctant to proceed because, the procurement could be set aside in the courts as it was previously. And the thing is, when it comes to nuclear procurement, there is only one way of doing things, and that is the right way. And any shortcuts or trying to bypass processes and requirements will simply be challenged by various parties who are watching the process extremely closely. So he's really called a halt to this procurement process and says that they're going to effectively start again. In other words, they've got to do a new IRP, a new determination. It has to be concurred with by NERSA after another set of public hearings. It's got to be approved by National Treasury in terms of the Public Finance Management Act. And only then can the procurement start.
Okay. What are the implications thereof then?
Yeah, look, the implications are simply that the can has been kicked down the road again. There is no specific timeline that the Minister has set for these processes. The question was asked at the media briefing today as to what is the revised timeline, and the answer was it's not clear yet. That they're going to be looking at it, and hopefully they will present some kind of a timeline by the end of September this year. But the point that is made is that first, there has to be a new integrated resource plan for electricity that looks at the whole rationale, supply and demand, the costs, and the costs compared to alternatives, and to make sure that this is aligned with the socio-economic objectives of government. And that is what an IRP is all about. That's what it does. And you cannot proceed until you've done this IRP, and the current IRP, on which the previous determination was made, is more than 5 years out of date. and so, a new IRP is in progress. It's not out yet. But the new IRP has got to support this. And then it's got to go to NERSA for concurrence. And before NERSA concurs, it must go out for a public participation process
after which concurrence happens. Then it must go to National Treasury to do a cost-benefit analysis and to make sure that it's value for money in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, and only then can the procurement proceed. So it's got to be done properly in the right sequence as well.
Well, you mentioned that you need to have a very clear plan. There's this integrated rationale approach that you've touched on, right? What then is your advice? I mean, we don't really know everything what the minister and his advisors are thinking, but what do you think? What should that plan be?
Yeah, well, look, first of all, I must say, and I will try and answer your question, but, the IRP is not a Chris Yelland plan. It's a plan that involves all the stakeholders in the energy sector, including the public. And it follows it is a rational techno-economic study that has got to be done properly. It's, the power system has got to be modeled and looked at the supply and the demand and how much new power is needed and by when. It looks at the costs and the alternatives, and the costs of alternatives. And so, I can tell you what I think, but it's not what I think that counts. What counts is the outcome of a proper techno-economic study involving all the stakeholders. But just to answer your question, if you want my opinion for what it's worth, probably not very much.
I do.
But my view is that one has to look at what the power system is going to look like in about 2035, because this new nuclear power is only going to come to the grid, if we order it now, if we start the process now, it's only going to come to the grid in about 2035. So one's got to ask, in the year 2035 and beyond, what will the power system be needing in South Africa? Now, by 2035, numerous studies have indicated that we're going to have about 70,000 megawatts of variable renewable energy. And in 2035, when we have the 70,000 megawatts of variable renewable energy, actually the last thing we need is only 2,500 megawatts, which is a tiny fraction of 70,000 megawatts. What we don't need is 2,500 megawatts of fixed, inflexible power generation. What we really need is significant, flexible generation. Not nuclear power, because nuclear is not flexible. It needs to run flat out all the time. What we need is flexible generation that can fill the gaps in the variability of wind and solar. And
maybe we'll have a longer chat about that, this flexible generation that you refer to. Just the last thing before I let you go. We've had lots of thoughts about this, and again, because you have your eye on energy, what are your thoughts? I'm not too sure whether the minister has had his 100 days of the new era. He's obviously been a minister before. I'm talking about Minister Ramokgopa in terms of what do you see? How much of an influence has he been for positive change in that sector?
I believe he's had a very positive impact. I mean, Minister Ramokgopa, since his appointment, has shown a completely different and new energy. He's brought a new energy to the whole question of energy in South Africa. Very, very different from his predecessor, Minister of Mineral Resources, Energy, Minister Mantashe. Minister Ramokgopa has really brought this new energy. He's in power stations. He's engaging. He has press releases media briefings every 2 weeks. He communicates properly. He's really, he is the face to the end of load shedding. And he has been rewarded politically by being made, Minister of Energy and Electricity, basically taking half of Gwedi Mantashe's portfolio from him, because he has succeeded, whereas Gwedi Mantashe has not succeeded. So I think he's really brought a breath of fresh air, much needed, to the whole question of energy in South Africa.
Well, there you are. You're right about this part, about the energy part. He's not just full of energy in terms of his work. He's a completely energized person. Those who have had the privilege of meeting him one-on-one will know that he's just completely energized. He's just like he's made for social media, if I can call it that, in terms of how he greets people, how he hugs them, what he says, and maybe that sort of self-produced energy then rubs off with all the work that he does. So, Chris Yellen, thanks for those pointed comments. Much appreciate you sharing your time with us today regarding energy and the Minister of Energy, Minister Ramokgopa. Chris Yellen, of course, is an energy expert.
To TV licensors have developed a new GIS-linked national address database to ensure that we can communicate with all our valued license holders. We now have a visual of all licensed and unlicensed households nationwide in order to effectively communicate with you. We remind you to take note of our payment reminders and avoid paying penalties due to non-compliance or choosing to ignore your legal obligation to pay your license fees. We can communicate with all our license holders through cost-effective electronic methods, enabling us to collect license fees and continue to support the national broadcaster, the SABC, in accordance with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act No. 4 of 1999 as amended. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter.
This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be.
Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com.
Hashtag We Love It Here.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get a call, and still the calls relating to Floyd Shivambu continue. Sandila, good talking to you, Sandila. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you doing?
I'm good indeed, right? I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Go ahead.
I'm all right. I'm actually on the road. I might be actually distracted.
All right.
Yeah. Ashraf, I'm actually having a bit of a discomfort in the manner in which we are actually responding in this issue of Floyd Shivambu's revelation. Because Floyd is not actually the first leader to have resigned from a political party. You've got the likes of Mashaba, you've got the likes of Maimane, and many others. And now it actually brings me to a question whether things that are actually happening to these white parties, they are non-issues. But when it comes to these black political parties, then they become topic of the day. And I'm asking myself, why is that? Particularly to my black fellow Africans who seem to be persistent on this matter of Floyd Shivambu. There are issues in which we actually need to have been persistent, but we are not. We're just silent. Your issue of the increase of parliament, which is actually taken from our coffers, our pocket. Because remember that it is us, the taxpayers.
Okay, I'm just going to push you for one final comment because of time. I mean, I hear you. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, that was
okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe I'll just give you some of my thoughts. Not now. Let me get to the news and sport because we need to get some thoughts on that. And I hear what you're saying. It's an interesting issue that you raised. So thanks for that call, Sandilia. Right. Let's talk about another issue around Medicare, specifically for concerning women. Right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Keep the other calls coming about whatever it is you want to talk about, including some people commenting about Tulasizwe Simelane. So let's talk about women. It's Women's Month. We know that's now. The MediWell Healthy Women's Month campaign is very interesting. It talks about rolling out free health screenings for women who do not have medical aid. And as you know, in South Africa, generally, if you don't have medical aid, well, you know, right? So the initiative is a public-private partnership that will see many partners mobilizing their resources to empower women to take control of their health. So, what purpose do they serve? Does it really make an impact? Let's find out with Dr. Maggie Mojapelo, who's the founder of MediWell. Dr. Mojapelo, you're live on the National Pulse. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you. So, tell us how you are solving this problem of people who are not on medical aid, who don't have medical health care, but they need all the things that clearly is required, right, including health screenings.
Okay, this project was launched today, and I'm with my chief operating officer here, who will take over in case my voice goes down. We launched one of the most significant projects about women this Women's Month. We launched Healthy Women's Month, and we are saying with this project, basic health screening, that is proactive health intervention that we will unpack, should be accessible to all women in South Africa, irrespective of whether they can afford or not. It's simple, it's easy. We have seen today as we launched, we got thousands of women who came and exceeded our expectations. We had mobilized private-public partnerships, and that it was pioneered by MediWell, and we pulled out all the resources of healthcare providers, especially within malls, within facilities, or where there are congregation of healthcare providers. We have the Department of Health. We had a mobile clinic who were screening. We had nurses, doctors from different aspects, clinics, Discam, and Discovery.
Okay, so tell me how is it changing things then? Tell me that.
Okay, yeah. I've got the chief operating officer who will chip in. My voice is going down. Yes, I will change things.
Hi. Yeah, hello.
Hi.
All right, I'm very good. So tell us how. I've already heard about the launch. How would that change things? How would this impact in terms of the grouping of women that you're targeting?
Okay, so I'm Dr. Malevo Mupotedi from MediWell, and what we are trying to do is to ensure that we emphasize the impact of preventative screening. Preventative screening means that it's proactive healthcare. So I will give you an example. We were targeting primarily the uninsured patients, so patients who would not ordinarily go to a doctor. So most of our patients were tenants, workers, housekeepers, waiters. You know, we had our spa therapists coming in. And, you know, the interesting thing is, as we screened them, many of them had never had blood pressure checked before. We got a lot of patients with severe hypertension that we actually had to manage on site. We had many newly diagnosed diabetic patients who came with sugars about 20. I mean, the normal sugar should be less than 7.5. And these patients, we could start them on treatment and refer them appropriately. How it's going to change things is it changes the landscape of what patients will look like when they come to the clinic. Patients, when they come to clinic, let's say your public healthcare clinic, they come in with strokes. They come in with blindness, with needing amputations, kidney failure because of undiagnosed hypertension and diabetes, as well as cholesterol. So what we're trying to do is to catch those high-risk patients early and then work together with the public sector to feed those high-risk patients so that no woman dies of a stroke, no woman dies of a heart attack, no woman goes blind.
Okay.
So that is our main idea.
Well, I hope you do well. I mean, that's why it's called MediWell, and I think it just says it all. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Right. Well, there you are, MediWell. Check them out in terms of providing this service for women, particularly those who are not, don't have medical health care cover, which puts you into such a vulnerable position, doesn't it? Let's get the news headlines now. It's 4:30. Here's Utsile.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. The lawyer representing some of the widows of the slain Marikana miners, advocate Dalim Mpofu, says government has not resolved several claims related to the Marikana massacre. Mpofu was addressing mine workers and AMCU supporters at the 12th Marikana massacre commemoration near Rustenburg in the northwest. The High Court in Polokwane, Limpopo, has slapped Stanley Lishabane, Ndondo, Butelezi, Tembelane Dlamini and Bekizenzo Piose with life sentences each on 2 counts of murder. And the legal representative of Siabonga and Malusi Ndimande, arrested in Eswatini for the murder of Keenan aka Forbes and Tibello Mutane, says they are yet to decide whether to appeal the extradition application judgment handed down by the Manzini Magistrates Court. Details at 5 o'clock with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in 4 ways is queuing on the off-ramp to Winnie Mandela Drive. The N12 westbound in Alberton slow moving towards the R59 Reading interchange. In Pretoria, Eskempa-Hleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street, and Mapopane Highway westbound has delays at the Hairpin Bend. In KZN, the N3 eastbound stationary truck reported there before Ashburton. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Maiden Road has truck congestion reported throughout that Maiden Wharf area. In Cape Town, Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. Viking Way eastbound in Epping is slow moving towards the N7 Jakes Harville Drive, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapele.
Right, shall we talk sport?
Yes, we start things off with rugby this hour. Eben Itzebeth is set to earn his 124th Test cap after being named on the Springboks bench against the Wallabies tomorrow in the Rugby Championship. Should he come onto the field, he will be on the same level as Brian Habana in being the second most capped Springbok in history, and 3 tests away from Victor Matfield, who is the most capped at 127. And if Itzebeth plays both home tests against the All Blacks in Johannesburg and Cape Town, he will be well on track to break Matfield's record in the test against Argentina on the 21st of September. And kickoff for tomorrow's match is around 11:45. Meanwhile, UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis brought his title challenger Israel Adesanya to tears ahead of their fight on Sunday morning. The two have had a public spat since the South African burst onto the scene and ultimately taking over the MMA crown when he defeated Sean Strickland in January. Du Plessis didn't mince his word when he asked about his first fight title defense against Adesanya, the New Zealand athlete with Nigerian descent.
This fight, every single fight, I fight the way I fight. Like you can hear, a crowd favorite. I make the crowd make noise, and that's what I'm here to do. I don't have to make it an ugly fight. I will be making it an ugly fight. I can make it a pretty fight. I'm winning the fight. That's at the end of the day what's going to happen. On a personal note, I don't know Israel Adesanya. What he says, I don't like. And, the way he approached this whole thing, this whole fight that was busy being made, I don't like it at all. When it comes to you as a fighter, the man is great. He's done great things. It's just time for me to take over like I have. And that's why I'm champion of the world.
Looking forward to that fight. But on a lighter tip, the Springboks met up with Du Plessis to lend their support for the UFC middleweight champion as he prepares to defend his title on Sunday. And skipper Siya Kolisi and fellow two-time World Cup winner Eben Itzebeth are set to walk Du Plessis to the octagon. So looking forward to that. Then in football, Wydad Athletic Club coach Rulani Mokoena has given reasons behind his decision to recruit the experienced Alan Fries to join his technical side. In July, it was reported that the 68-year-old was well on his way to Morocco to begin yet another fresh chapter in his career. And Mokoena, speaking to the SA Football Journalists Association this week, he suggested that he just needed Fries's know-how to navigate through North Africa.
You've seen it with Eric Ten Hag at Man United. He had someone more senior, someone more experienced than him. Coach Alan Fries is no stranger to football. I think he's had incredible success, not only as a football player and but also as a coach. I had the privilege and the honor to work with him in my early days as a coach at Silver Stars way back then. In fact, just the other day we were speaking about our experiences and our memories of working at Silver Stars and some of the things that we had gone through. And when the opportunity arose, I thought to myself that, sometimes when you are a little bit younger, you need a little bit more experience around you, and as I said, Coach Ellen comes with an incredible pedigree. He's a very experienced coach. He's a great man, and he's won a lot of trophies also, so you also need that, you need people who know how to win, but also people who've worked with players that are up and coming. So when I looked at the project, I looked at the work that we have to do.
Elsewhere, German champions Bayer Leverkusen announced the extension of German midfielder Robert Andrich's deal by 2 years until 2028. Andrich arrived at the club from Union Berlin back in 2021 and has since gone on to play 118 times for Leverkusen, scoring 16 times. In the meantime, Tottenham signed French winger Wilson Odobert from Burnley for an undisclosed fee today. The 19-year-old agreed to a 5-year contract with the North London club as he made a quick return to the Premier League following Burnley's relegation last season. Now, Tottenham moved to Odobert after the teenager's encouraging debut campaign in England. He made 34 appearances and scored 5 goals for Burnley after joining the Troyers, becoming the Claret's youngest Premier League goal scorer when he netted against Chelsea in October. Then in Olympic news, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced that Poland would officially bid to host the Olympic Games in 2040 or 2044. Now, this announcement follows that of Poland's Conservative President Duda, who announced last year that he intended to submit his country's bid to host the Summer Olympics in 2036. Poland has never organized an Olympic Games before. In 2012, it co-hosted the European Football Championship with Ukraine. It also hosted the European Games in 2023. And Ashraf, I heard you, if it's not last week or earlier this week, where you were asking, do you think South Africa should bid for the Olympics? Yes. I think the big question there is, do we have the right resources to hold the Olympics?
And your answer? Silence.
I don't think so.
Well, that's what I think.
It's something that we can work on, but I don't think we have enough resources.
The big question is, can we produce the same results of high Olympic achievers without hosting an Olympics? And I think yes. Meaning you don't have to have an Olympic Games to produce the results. Olympics will inspire people, as it inspired the Parisians and others all the time. But if we put the resources into grassroots and absolutely invest in it, we'll see far bigger results than 6 medals.
Absolutely.
I do believe for a nation of our stature, 6 ain't good enough. It really isn't.
It's not.
Nigeria got 0, by the way. That's another conversation.
Yeah, but are we comparing ourselves against Nigeria?
No, just as an example of a country with a huge population, they're doing something wrong. So they're doing something wrong, and so are we. Yeah, okay.
Right, I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat it? From inside his own arm! Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. #We love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hey Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile. Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
You know, since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the markets now with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Good chatting to you as always. Let's give us an update on local and global markets.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to all our listeners. Looking in the global scene, markets continue to hold some positivity as we end the week, thanks to the collapse of the fear on U.S. recession concerns and supported by surprising positive data coming off the U.S. from the labor and consumer spending and the continued pricing of rate cuts coming through by investor sentiment. However, fear still remains going into the weekend, especially on the geopolitical front, as the likes of the U.S. warn of a retaliation of the Iran strike coming in through, and in addition the Ukrainian forces are also advancing into Russian territory, and this has seen investors being skeptical, looking for some safe haven. We see the price of gold was up 1.6 to a new record high of $2,495 an ounce. Oil gave up some gains, up down 1.2% at $79.70 a barrel, as the ceasefire is still also on the table. Meanwhile, general equities were mixed. US, Nasdaq, S&P 500 were flat. Europe saw some gains, with the CAC and DAX up 0.7 and 0.2 respectively. FTSE is down 0.4, while locally we've eked out more gains, up 0.7, record highs, thanks to financials, industrials up 0.8, and our resource sector down up 0.3. Meanwhile, the rand remains positive on rate hike expectations, and the positive local outlook looking into South African fundamentals taking shape. We see the rand against the dollars at 17.86, rand against the euro 19.65, and rand against the pound 23 rand and 5 cents.
Right, that's and of course tomorrow being a Saturday, this is it for the weekend. We'll talk again on Monday. Yeah, perfect. Of course, we'll have another update coming up, another marketing update in the markets rather, coming up in just about an hour, less than an hour. By the way, you must know this. Dr. Alan Busak, he is my guest in what we call the Friday Fireside Chat. So it's every Friday we chat for, well, just less than an hour. So we're going to do that just now. I hope you're going to be listening in. I expect it. And there'll be a chance for you to ask some questions as well. What would you want to ask him? Before we move on to other issues, here's something that's important. The President Ramaphosa has now just signed into law the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act, which sets out far-reaching reforms of South Africa's electricity sector, including the establishment of a competitive electricity market. Now, the bill assented to by the President amends the Electricity Regulation Act of 2006 to respond to current realities in the electricity sector and open up pathways to greater competition and reduced energy costs, increased investment in new generation capacity to achieve energy security, and establish an independent transmission company as the custodian of the national grid, and impose severe penalties for damage to and the sabotage of infrastructure. So that's quite significant. Let's just say this: the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act provides for the establishment, duties, powers and functions of the transmission system operator, which is the SOC Limited or TSO, which must be established as an independent entity within 5 years, and for the National Transmission Company to act as the TSO in the interim. It also provides for an open market platform that allows for competitive wholesale or retail buying and selling of electricity. Do I need to say that it's a game changer? You may want to add your thoughts onto that. Let's get to calls now. Lenius Mashile, as always, good chatting to you. Hi.
No, how are you?
Thanks, I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
Ashraf, 2 points, man. I think it's the issue of the EF. I think it's the ceiling. It's exactly the same as or ACDP. And it's just now going to start sliding down, and there's nothing to revive it. And then on the nuclear power, I'm sure you know the history of that it was stopped some couple of years back by the courts. and NGOs. And Ashraf, I'm afraid that it's we may start having to entertain ideological positions of this country. This matter whether it is the political parties elected to rule or it is the constitutional court or the courts to rule the country. Because the political parties, they actually give some manifestos and say we'll do X, Y, Z within this next 5 years. But it looks like all the time is that it depends on the court, to frustrate these political parties to actually do what they're supposed to do.
But I don't know if the court's job is to frustrate them. Yeah, I don't know if the court's plan is to frustrate them, just making the point. Okay, got that, thank you. I don't know if they're really out to frustrate them. There is this checks and balance that occurs in civil society, played out then through parliament in any democracy in the world, and maybe that is as it should be. Let's get to some of the voice notes that we've been sent.
Evening, Mr. Ashraf. Even myself, I don't see Mr. Shivambu survived the MK. I think that the reason why Mr. Malema said, as for him, Mr. Shivambu, he's allowed to come back at the EFF at any time. So, yeah, and welcome back, Mr. Similane. Wow, thanks to SAFM management. Thank you so much.
Okay. Nice one. I'll comment on that. Let's go.
Hi, Uncle Ashraf. I think John Karike has been outstanding for us in the mornings, and now with the accusation of Thulasizwe Simelane, I think for me that is just a pure class accusation, and I'm looking forward to his insightful show in the morning on SFM, and yeah, I really welcome his appointment. Kumi Bushapak.
Thank you, Kumi. Well, two thumbs up to John Carrico, who's been standing in for a few weeks, and I've been listening, and yes, absolutely. And then, of course, as you said, this class acquisition is another.
Baba Simelane is here! Welcome, Baba Simelane, welcome!
Well, maybe they should as the show opening promo to La Seasway. Okay, got that. Thank you for that. Right. Well, and maybe here's another around regarding Floyd.
Good day, Mr. Ashraf and all the SAFM listeners. Mr. Ashraf, I'm a EFF member in good standing. I love the party. I believe in the party and everything. What happened yesterday with Comrade Floyd leaving us, just painful, but I think I will accept. But one thing for sure is that this party is very, very, very strong, and it's bigger than Floyd and it's bigger than everyone else. People know Julius Malema will tell you this party is very big, and then the party is not going anywhere. Thank you.
When you say the party, I do think you are referring to the EFF, aren't you?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know, Ashraf, there are cracks within the Umkhonto Sizwe. Those 18 members which were withdrawn from the parliament, those people campaigned for Umkhonto and their constituents voted for them. So what happens with their constituencies? Remember, Zuma expelled his co-founder, Jabu Khumalo. What about those people who supported Jabu Khumalo? And this Flat Shibambo must be very, very careful with Zuma. Zuma is incompatible with anyone. Very soon he will see the door. If he wants to condense the power of the Umsholos there, he will see the door very, very soon. That is what is going to happen. I'll pack it here. Norman from Brixton.
Okay, but within the MK, at some stage, from a leadership point of view, they do have to provide the type of succession plan that at any organization, any company, any party has to put into place, or else, isn't it? That point that I just want to just pick up on that we had from Sandile early on, saying that, why are we making, effectively the media and others are making a big issue about Floyd Shivambu. They didn't do the same thing with Herman Mashaba, as well as with, Musi Maimane. I think the big difference is this. both of them, when they stepped down, right, they didn't join another party immediately. They did not, I'm almost certain of it. And they certainly did not join a stronger party, meaning when they finally formed their own parties, they literally started from scratch. In this case here, Floyd Shivambu's left his party, and then in the same sitting of confirming that he's out, confirmed who's he joining. And that party that he's just joined has been, you must admit, the success story of the 2024 election. That's why there's a fuss. So in fact, the fuss that people are making about it is because they see the implications. The implications of him joining MK is far bigger than Musi Maimane stepping down from the DA and forming no party. And the same with Herman, and then forming another party much later on. I hope you understand. Well, that's my point anyway.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For super-fast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and paying yours.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Do not forget, we'll chat to Dr. Ellen Busa coming up after 5 as part of the Friday Fireside Chat, where we have a person we chat to, we really chill, like literally around the fireside, if we could, right? And we'll chat for an hour up to 6 o'clock. Lots to come from that conversation, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Google. Google introducing a new tool to create a healthy digital environment for children in particular. Sia Marikane with me, Communications and Public Affairs Manager at Google SA. Sia, I appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. Thank you for having me.
Right, I think the issue of safety for children generally is paramount in the midst of huge concerns about it around the world, right? So what's the plan this time?
This time we're launching school time. Just after doing some research around with parents and also engaging with parents, we just figured out that parents think deeply about how their children really engage with the technology, with the use of technology, including, and then they really trying to get sort of striking the right balance between being online as well as offline time. These are really like concerns that they raised in this research that we had. And then, we came up with school time, which is a tool that we've launched, really allows the parents to be able to take control of their kids' cell phone. So they do this by downloading the tool itself on the home screen of the child's phone. And the parents on the other side uses Family Link, which is our parental control tool, parental controls tool that we have to then be able to engage with the child's phone during school time, allowing really productivity in the classroom, and also making sure that the kid focuses and be able to engage thoroughly with the schoolwork. Interesting.
I mean, one of the pictures is to create a more healthier environment, a healthier digital environment for younger people, for children. Does that suggest that very often the digital environment for children is actually very unhealthy?
I didn't get the question.
Do we conclude, therefore, that in the move to have a healthier digital environment for children, that the current digital environment for children is actually unhealthy?
Well, I don't think it means either or. And that's what I was trying to understand with your question. Well, for us, really, it's about the research that came through, and as well as from the parents who've been asking for sort of increased privacy, as well as sort of trust mechanism put in place by us. And for us, as you know, our mission is really to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And so we are in that space, and it's really incumbent of us to make sure that we produce tools that are safe to use. And the outcry from parents was, we need something that can give us a bit of better control to make sure that our kids are engaging with this ever-evolving technology world that's really becoming part of their mainstream everyday lives, to make sure that they sort of engage with the right and appropriate, more importantly, more appropriate sort of content for kids and at that age.
So how does that play out in practice when we talk about, school time? So give me a sense of practically what's the existing position and how will that change?
I don't have the facts in terms of what's the situation now, but we do know that we're having more and more users asking of us to sort of put up privacy tools, and so what this does is it really just allows parents to say, I don't want you to be viewing these sort of content during class time. I don't want you to be getting calls from this type of people during class time. I don't want you to be getting SMSs from this type of people class time. Give that control back to the parent to be able to manage it. This is during class time as well as after class. So you, even weekends, you're able to say, I don't want you between 1 and 5 during family time being on your phone, on these apps, and you're really able to then lock it as a parent from your side. And this is also obviously for parents as well as the children themselves. If the child on all our Android devices that are available are able to put one of the tools which we call focus time that comes with the device itself to then turn off the phone and not be available during those times. Really just putting the power back to the user to make sure that they're able to remain in control. As you know, we're getting a lot more out of the internet with the sort of the fast tracking of digital transformation across the globe, and people are buying the internet a little bit more, and really just making sure from our side that we give our users the ability to control how much they can consume.
What's been the reaction so far?
It's great. At the moment, we're still rolling it out. It's on the Fitbits now. At the moment, it will be going to Samsung watches. Then it will be rolling out to the rest of the Android devices. So all your Samsungs, etc., will be getting this tool between now and towards the end of the year. And so it's being picked up, and people are starting to ask questions on how to use it, etc.
And I'm sure they would. And it's called. Just tell me again. What is it called? If they need to find it. Well, they can't get it now,
School
right?
Time.
Yeah, School Time.
School Time. Yeah. So FairyLink is available to all users already. So if everybody goes to their Google account where they manage it at the right hand corner of their sort of home tab on Google, there's those 3 dots, those 6 dots. Click on those, and then you manage your account. As soon as you get into manage accounts, you look for Family Link, and you're able to then set it up, connect your kid's device to your device, and then you're able to take it from there.
Okay, Family Link is the all-important one. Appreciate your time, Sia. We will chat about this soon. Let it truly roll out, and let's see the impact, right? Sia Madikane, the Communications and Public Affairs Manager at Google SA. Right, we have further opinions, as I expect. I mean, it is the national pulse after all, and this clearly moves the pulse rate of the nation.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I think the real reason why Floyd to join the MK party is that he needs a political party which will shield him against this VBS saga case, which has turned a dark cloud on him. He only noticed that under the EFF, no one will protect him from the court, because he still needs to face the law, he still needs to face the judges. So he thinks Jacob Zuma is the better person to protect him, because we only know that Zuma is famous for playing the law, for playing the court. He can dink and dunk, he can do anything with our justice system. Brian Mabai, Proteagland. Thank you.
Okay, let me play another, also on floor.
Hey Ashraf, nice to listen to you, man. Traveling between Alice and East London at the moment. Interesting point here on the Floyd Shivambu and the EFF. Let's just remind ourselves, this is the very same Floyd Shivambu that was sitting in Parliament a few years ago shouting at Jacob Zuma, pay back the money, pay back the money. And when he was interviewed in TV, I think it was on SABC News, he made a comment and said that he never considered working with Jacob Zuma ever again, because he's a financial delinquent, I think it was what he called him. So, I guess this is why Shivambu is called Flip Flop Floyd.
The truth is, I mean, you're right about that, but you're also maybe right about including so many others, including political parties who up to May 28th said, we will not work with that other party. And all those parties, they're working with each other now. It's a strange world. It's called politics. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Host.
Thank you, Ashraf. Government criticised over Marikana claims and concern about Mpox vaccines. Good day to you. A lawyer representing some of the widows of the slain Marikana miners, Dalian Pofu, says government hasn't resolved several claims related to the Marikana massacre. He was addressing mine workers and UMKU supporters at the annual Marikana commemoration near Rustenburg in the northwest. Earlier, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development said more than 350 million rand has been paid out in claims related to Marikana. And Pofu also criticised President Cyril Ramaphosa for failing to visit Marikana as he promised.
With regards to our cases against government, they said today in Parliament that they paid 300 million. It's still the same 300 million they spoke about last year, but government itself still has 10 outstanding cases they haven't compensated. Then the cases that are bothering us the most are the ones against Sibanye and Ramaphosa. Both Ramaphosa and Sibanye are delaying. The reason Ramaphosa doesn't come here is because he lied when he made that promise. No one has restricted him from coming here.
The Gauteng Department of Economic Development has refuted claims of corruption in the 100 million rand Kasim Toto Fund. This after local entrepreneurs and spaza shop owners lashed out at the department, saying they failed to deliver on their promises to fund them. The fund is aimed at offering loans and empowering businesses. The department's Matopani Masha says their intermediary, Family Tree Holdings, is still finalising successful applicants before payments can be made.
Family Tree was appointed after a due diligence process conducted independently. They were then appointed as an intermediary on the Casino Fund, where they contributed 50 million and government contributed 50 million. But as of now, the fund they haven't dispersed any money. There are a lot of applications that they've received, and those applications, once they are processed, approved, of course, SMMEs will then be funded. So the 100 million fund is still there. It hasn't been dispersed as yet.
The High Court in Polokwane in Limpopo slapped Stanley Leshabane and 3 co-accused with life sentences for murder. Judge Gerrit Muller cited the court took into consideration factors like lack of remorse displayed by the 4 men. He further stated that Leshabane was aware that his deceased wife, Mokwena Mabusela Leshabane, was with her business partner at the time of the execution-style murders. But Seba Mobile reports.
Judge Muller's detailed sentencing report noted the seriousness and gravity of the offences carried by Leshabane, who had hired the hitmen. With the hitmen, they were all anticipating a payment of 60,000 from the mastermind. The court deemed this as a contractual killing. The defense, representing convicts 4 and 5, has presented an argument as to reasons for applying for leave to appeal against conviction and sentencing. Batsiba Mabua, SABC News in Polokwane.
The Police Minister, Senzim Gunu, says adding manpower and aligning law enforcement agencies will aid in combating crime in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape. He was speaking against the backdrop of a crime in Bizo held in the Metro today.
We are seeking a cooperation agreement, particularly with the Metro Police, because we want to increase personnel on the ground and in all areas where there is crime, hot or no hot spot. We are going to have police all around, and this is one way we are going to do this, and that will add immediately 300 police working side by side with South African Police Service, aligned, and all of them looking at hotspots in a united and aligned way.
The legal representative Siyabonga Musin Demande, arrested in Eswatini for the murder of Kiernan A.K. Forbes and Tebelo Motswane Sifisonke Ngwenya, says they're yet to decide whether to appeal an extradition application judgment handed down by the Manzini Magistrates Court. The presiding magistrate found that there was sufficient evidence for the accused to stand trial in South Africa. Ngwenya says his clients have about 15 days to appeal.
The court did indicate that we will get the full judgment and the reasons on Tuesday.
So I'll only be able to know our next step after having received the full judgment with reasons and then having communicated with the clients, who will then instruct on the way forward after having advised.
The World Health Organization says it fears the discovery of the new Mpox strain outside Africa will lead wealthy countries to hang on to their vaccines. The BBC's Imogen Folks has more.
Later today, we're expecting them to issue recommendations for countries to deal with this health emergency of international concern. But we did hear from the Red Cross this morning, and one of the things they are emphasizing is for countries in Europe, be happy that Sweden was so quick to identify this case and tell us all about it. And the other thing is, be generous. It's the wealthy countries that have the stockpiles of vaccine. This is not COVID. We know what this disease is. We have a vaccine, we have treatments.
Top story, a lawyer representing some of the workers of the slain Marikana miners says government hasn't resolved several claims related to the Marikana massacre. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gous.
In your sports this hour, Smith welcomes top talent to Betway SA20 and Elizabeth closes in on Matfield record. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash before Giluli's interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. Winnie Mandela Drive northbound in Four Ways has a crash at the N1 highway. In Pretoria, the R566 Rosalind Road has a crash reported at Willem Kruiwagen Avenue, and the N4 has a crash reported between Watermeyer Street and Rousseau Street exit, and you are to expect traffic in both ways. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a stationary truck before Ashburton, the N2 northbound queuing through the M41 gateway exit, the M4 northbound has a crash reported before Virginia Airport. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards the R300 highway, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Milner Road, the N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound is slow moving towards Beaufort Circle. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Come with me down Paradise Road. This way, please. I'll carry along. This you won't believe. Come with me to Paradise Sky. Look outside and open your eyes. This you must believe. And the burning winds behind us, fire smoking. The sky is blazing. The woman waiting, weeping, and the young man will be
Tell you what, every time I listen to that song about Paradise almost closing down, it's incredibly nostalgic, don't you think? And I'm sure wherever you may be in the country or even around the world, because I know people listening on streaming live are like, I know that song. And suddenly you associate so many people and so many things with that song. Now, tell you what, I haven't chosen the song. That song has been chosen by Dr. Alan Busak as part of our Friday Fireside Chat. So, Dr. Alan Busak, good chatting to you. It's been a while.
Yes, I know. I mean, I've been thinking, when last did we speak? It must be, many years ago.
I think it was in the Cape Town studios.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you are still active and on radio.
Well, I've been inactive, I've been off air, and I've come back. And, of course, as part of my return, one of the people we had to talk to was yourself.
Well, thank you so much for inviting.
Right. First of all, let's go to the song. We asked you to pick out a couple of songs, and you've chosen that song, and we've chosen to open the show with it. Why this song?
It's a beautiful song. It's also a song that came out, as you know, during the AIDS pandemic. So it was meant to encourage South Africans in a way that just a speech from a politician or just somebody that's a talker would not be able to do. It brought South Africans around that particular fight in ways that were quite unprecedented, and also it encapsulated the struggle as a whole for a different kind of society, as a people united. And so I just loved the song. I loved what Joy did with that song.
And then when you play it and replay it, as we do now at different times in different environments and spaces, what then do you think?
I mean, look, I used that song as the title of a sermon not so very long ago. When there was this huge crisis in Cape Town around the taxis and the struggle of our people, especially from the townships, was sort of thrust in our faces. The battles they had, not just with the taxi associations, but with the city and with the political establishment. And we brought people together, and the churches organized a service and asked me to preach. And I thought, what would be a good connecting way of bringing all these issues?
You've done just that. We can talk about more ways to connect people and communities and society right after this.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Chatting to Dr. Alan Busak as part of our Friday fireside chat. What we do is every Friday we chill for an hour. I have the privilege, and you have it as well, where we have someone in studio or in studio, online, Zoom, in whichever way, and we talk to them as, you know, simulating a fireside conversation, the type that you have and I have anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. So we'll take your calls, we'll take your comments. In fact, you can post comments right away on our social media platforms, on the X platform, on SFM Radio. Just tweet out your thoughts. Do the same thing on Facebook as well. Don't forget the hashtag we use always, the National Pulse. But I'll take your calls as well later on. Let's get back to my guest. In fact, I say my guest. It's a strange thing because the plan is almost to not even have you talking about you as a guest, because it's not a classic interview. It's really two people just chatting away. Now, I would say this much. I mean, ever since I've known about you a long, long time ago, and I was a lightie and you were much younger as well, I've never known you not to have an opinion on things. You always have strong views, right? When did you develop that, firstly? This the sense of like, I have a view and I'm going to articulate that view.
Well, fairly early, I suppose. We were a large family, 8 children. My father died when I was very young, 6 years old. My mother then brought up the children all on her own, never remarried. And so it's a family that revels in vibrant conversation and challenging one another, playing jokes on each other, and you learn to live with that. You can't get upset every time somebody says something about you or tell stories out of school, so to speak, in a wider company. So and so you learn to fend for yourself, and forming an opinion and participating in that quite vigorous debates that we sometimes had about things. I suppose that helped. I was always the youngest in everything, the youngest in my high school class, the youngest in this, the youngest person ever to be ordained in our denomination. And so you learn to form opinions about things fairly early. When you're that young, it's very easy for people to sort of set you aside and say your opinion does not count. And I was not going to take that. So hence.
Well, there you are. So you had to fight for your space. I mean, exactly that. Have you ever held back and not just then, but even now, like, I have strong views, but I better keep my mouth shut?
Well, only sometimes. Not lately, though. The older I get, and the more I see about life, and the more I understand that what you say matters, especially if people tell you that you can say things in a way that they want to, but cannot really, then it becomes important to speak up. And so it's been a long time since I have held back on just about anything that I think is important.
And do you see
it's not always welcome. I grant you that. It's not always, people don't always appreciate your honesty. And I've had lots of friends who became very solid and high-placed politicians, and that relationship has definitely changed over the years.
But besides political, figures, have you had like somebody from your local community who knew you as a young boy was like, you know what? Like, play still, man. You know what? Muni Prati, don't talk. Come on, just keep quiet, man. Do you get that sort of thing from an elder? Somebody that you really can't argue with because it's somebody much older than you.
Well, not only that. I mean, people who associate themselves with you sometimes say to me, "Don't say that, because when you say that, then I get blamed for what you say because we are friends or we're in the same circle, or you're making it difficult for my colleagues." For instance, in church, we're saying you can say that, but just remember, I'm not in that same position. I'm much more vulnerable than you. So it's that kind of thing. I try to be understanding about that, but even with that, you have to understand that the issue that is at stake is much more important than one's individual comfort. When you refuse to say anything about something that's wrong.
Well, let's then get to that. I mean, it's an open canvas. It's a fireside chat. We can talk about rugby tomorrow. The Boks are playing. We can talk about other things. But I'm sure there are one or two issues that you really want to raise, and you don't want to lose this opportunity. So go ahead. What do you want to get off your chest?
Well, I mean, I think that politically we are in a very, very, very deep crisis. And that the way in which politicians think that we can get out of this crisis, for instance, by forming this coalition between the ANC and the DA, with smaller parties being hung around like decorations on a Christmas tree, that I think is definitely not the way to go. And so once again, one is forced to speak out and give one's opinion about this, and I'm very gratified to see all of the invitations that I get specifically to come and speak to communities or to churches or to gatherings about this particular issue, because people are really seized with it. And I am happy because for far too long, we were once a very vibrant civil society with people talking, a very politically conscious civil society. And for the last 30 years, it is as if all of that energy has just dissipated. The will to speak out, the will to organize, the will to come together has just been driven to the sidelines. And now, with everything that is happening politically, I am very gratified to see that people are rising up again, that people are speaking out again, that people want to engage in kind of conversation that is robust and honest about ourselves, and clearly moving towards something that they think will offer real solutions, where we think that mainline politics or the establishment solutions are really not acceptable.
So what about this DA-ANC alliance that so irks you?
Well, I think that if you form an alliance with one political party or with two political parties that are supposed to be ideologically from two opposite sides, within the framework where you could have formed an alliance with parties that are much more aligned with what you pretend to stand for. On the other hand, and this is also a thing that I find problematic, clearly the African National Congress has pretended, for instance, to be a kind of a social democratic leaning party, which now for the last 30 years we found out is not the case. So they were much more in line with what the DA stands for economically, this liberal kind of a new liberal capitalism line that they are taking. I find that very, very problematic.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, just hold that thought. I'm going to ask you, what then would you have changed if it was left to you, and where then do you stand in the social activism space right now? We're talking to Dr. Alan Busek.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, the Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
Hello guys. You're so dramatic. Hey Bob, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, I'm having this fireside chat with Dr. Alan Busek, but you certainly can join in. Maybe time for, I'll probably take 3 calls in the next 5-6 minutes or so. So if you wish to call in and comment, you can do so. 086 000 2032. If you wish to WhatsApp, voice notes, welcome 0614 104 107. Otherwise, you can text us too. And if you want to join the WhatsApp channel called the National Pulse, well, just WhatsApp us and just say, please add me to that channel. Okay, let's get back to our conversation. So I've heard what you've said. Now, the converse is like, so we know the cards the ANC had been dealt with. The 40% was the card. So what would you have done differently then?
Well, I would have looked for, I would know, and I would have prepared for the fact that I am no longer alone in the position of power. I cannot dictate on my own anymore the direction that we should go. So I would look for parties that have fundamentally the same views that I would have. So, for instance, on economic policy inside the country, on what do we do with regard to our external policies like BRICS, like Palestine. Now, those are important issues, especially Palestine. Now, you can't have a political party that says we are with the people of Palestine, and then you have a party that is openly pro-apartheid Israel, pro-Zionist. That will never work. And I've always, maybe something like 2 years ago, I've written and said, I think that if the ANC goes into a coalition with the DA, although it will represent a smaller number of voters, will in fact be the senior partner in that coalition because of the weakness of the ANC in its leadership, because of its vacillating upon its policies. It claims to be socialist or close to socialist, but then it follows a new liberal capitalist line. So that kind of weakness and the fragmentation itself within the African National Congress, one could see that a mile coming. So that's where we are right now. And if I were the African National Congress, would avoid that at all costs. I would look for partners, not only because they are ideologically more aligned, but I would think of who represents the people of South Africa in its masses the best, and the best that I could get in that sense. So my first consideration would not be how would I protect my position, how would I re-entrench myself in a position of power. My question would be, with whom do I partner that would really have the interest and the well-being of South Africa's people?
So what would the answer be?
And is another question.
But what would that answer be if you said, with whom do I partner that would have the interest of...
Oh, clearly, I mean, in terms of ideological position, the ANC should have gone and talked to MK, it should have gone and talked to the EFF, and together they would already have the vast majority of the voters behind them. Then you find a way in which to work with smaller parties that need not be in government, but can be a soundboard for what do we form as policies, and can we agree that the policies of the last 30 years have been responsible for the misery and the failure of the African National Congress, and that inflicted upon our people in the last 30 years. Now, if you can agree upon that, that means you can do some self-reflection, you can be self-critical, you can ask questions about yourself, and you look for people who can help you to recast yourself and to rediscover the role that you say that you are destined to play in South Africa's political life.
Okay, two things I must ask you, others I'll be furious if I don't. So do you think then that the DA is the senior partner in this senior partner?
Absolutely.
Now, even now.
I've written about that. The DA is the senior partner, and you can see in a number of ways, but the way in which they have come to an agreement to protect President Cyril Ramaphosa against any action that might be taken against him in Parliament or in the courts. Up till now, they have been jumping up and down. Cyril, Paula, he's got to go to jail, he's this, he's that, and the other. All of a sudden, they guarantee him protection. Now that, to me, is political blackmail. And if you have a president that is so vulnerable to that kind of blackmail, what do you get? You don't get somebody who can take the lead, who can say, this is the direction we are going, or I can persuade my party. No, you get somebody who thinks, if I don't do what they tell me, then I'll go to jail. If I don't do what they tell me, I'll be impeached. That is no position to be in, and it's an awful position to place the people of South Africa in.
I take it you're not a fan of Ramaphosa.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not. I do not think he's the right person to be our president. I think he should have resigned long ago if he had the courage to do so. He clings to the position in a way that I think it hollows out whatever the ANC says it is standing for. And the fact that his party protected him to this point shows you the moral emptiness and hollowness that the ANC has created for himself. And I don't like what I see. And I think it's bad for our politics, it's bad especially for our people.
So if not him, who would then be the right person to lead the country? And in answering that, don't worry about party lines, because we know who's got the majority votes. If you had a blank canvas and say, that's the person that should lead the country, who would that be?
I don't know. Because right now, the bar that we have set for ourselves for political leadership is so low. And we have not in the last 30 years set a model for young people to aspire to what politics should be like. So if you take what is right in front of us. I think that if you take what he has really tried to do, I'll stick my neck out and say probably Jacob Zuma is better than anybody else right now.
Jacob Zuma better than anybody else?
Well, not anybody else, but anybody else in politics right now.
Are you a member of the MK party?
No, I'm not.
And you're not a member of the ANC? And the ANC, you were?
No, I'm not. I'm not a member of any political party.
Right.
I speak solely for myself and for those people in public, in out there in civil society who think that I say something that they like.
All right. Just love the fact that by its nature, these fireside chats are completely unscripted. So what we'll talk about next, I have no idea. We'll see about it. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 5:30.
Quick look at the headlines. A lawyer representing some of the widows of the slain Marikana miners says government hasn't resolved several claims related to the Marikana massacre. The Civil Society Electoral Reform Panel says it's not in competition with the newly appointed Ministerial Advisory Committee on Electoral Reform. And the former wife of the convicted child killers hailed the revoking of his parole as a victory for victims of crime. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound in Southgate has a crash reported near the M1 interchange. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound is slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange, and the N12 R24 westbound has a crash reported before Giluli's interchange. In Pretoria, the N4 has a crash between Watermeyer Street and the Rousseau Street exit, causing delays in traffic in both directions. The N1 northbound has a crash reported after Rigel Avenue exit, and the N1 southbound has a crash at the R21 highway. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a crash reported near Mlaus Road. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck reported just before Ashburton. The M4 northbound has a crash before Virginia Airport, and Maiden Road has track congestion through the Maiden Wharf area. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound queuing towards the R300 highway. The M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The N7 Jakes Haddle Drive southbound is slow moving towards Beaufort Circle, and the R300 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported after the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumin Khapeli.
There's a cricket match on the go. It was like a T20 game last night. Today?
Well, the second day of the second test between West Indies and the Proteas, just to keep up with the results, the West Indies were bowled out for 144 and they're currently into the second innings. South Africa sitting on 12 for no loss, and they are leading by 28 runs. So we'll continue watching or keeping a close eye on what is happening over there. But SA20 League Commissioner Graham Smith says that he's looking forward to see the exceptional talent that will feature in the third season of SA's T20 competition that starts on the 9th of January next year. Among the stars to have signed up include the likes of Ben Stokes, Joe Root, Rashid Khan playing in the tournament next year, and it also promises to be no different. As things stand, the teams have between 14 and 17 players on their roster, and the squads will be completed at the auction in Cape Town on the 1st of October. Each franchise must choose a rookie, while 3 of the franchises still have a wild card to announce before the 30th of December. Then in rugby, Eben Etzebeth is set to earn his 124th test cap after being named on the Springboks bench against the Wallabies tomorrow in the Rugby Championship. Should he come on the field, he will be on the same level as Brian Habana in being the second most capped Springbok in history and 3 tests away from Victor Matfield, who is the most capped at 127. And if Etzebeth plays both the home tests against the All Blacks in Johannesburg and Cape Town, he will be on track to break Matfield's record, and it is in the test against Argentina on the 21st of September. Now, kick-off for tomorrow's match is at 11:15. Meanwhile, the Lions have called on Sibaba Lokoma to replace flank Ruan Venter in one of the 3 changes to the pack for the clash with Western Province tomorrow. The Lions will be captained by Ruben Skuman, who has returned from suspension, while Mornay Brandon gets his opportunity to start at hooker with regular skipper Yaku Visagie providing cover on the bench. There's also a return of tight prop Asenati, who will make his first appearance of the Currie Cup campaign from the bench. In football, Wydad Athletic Club coach Rulani Mokoena has confirmed formal talks between the Morocco Giants and midfielder Bongani Zungu that are ongoing. Now, the 31-year-old is currently a free agent, and speaking to the SA Football Journalists Association from Casablanca, Mokoena offered the latest on his interest in snapping Zungu up.
The players you've mentioned, I can speak about Bongani Zungu because he's not attached at the moment. There is a huge possibility. I'm a big Bongani Zungu fan. I think everybody knows. I love Bongani Zungu as a person because this is what makes him a top football player. You know, he's an incredible human being, and we just have to see because it's a bit more complicated than what people think, but it is a big possibility.
Meanwhile, Liverpool manager Arne Slot says that he's happy with the strength of the squad that Jurgen Klopp left him, despite not being able to sign some of the players that he wanted ahead of the first Premier League game. Real Sociedad midfield Martin Zubimendi decided not to join Liverpool despite the club's best effort, and Slot says that it was difficult to find players who would improve his squad.
There are a lot of questions in one, but I said many times already that I think our squad is really strong, and it's not so easy to find players that can help us or can even strengthen the squad. And Subimendi was one of them, to be fair, but he decided not to come, and then we go forward with the ones we have, and those ones have done really well in pre-season. So we're in a good place, and like I said many times before, on the background, Richard is trying to strengthen the squad as he can, but unfortunately Subimendi decided not to come, and he did every effort, he tried everything to bring him in, but if a player doesn't want to come, it's obvious that he then is not coming.
Well, Liverpool face Brentford tomorrow at 5:30. Elsewhere, FC Barcelona coach Hansi Flick will face Valencia in his first La Liga match in charge of the Catalan club with a number of important absentees. Although star winger Lamine Yamal will be available despite the 17-year-old's father being in hospital after a stabbing incident. Now, the German confirmed that the star of Spain's Euro 2024 win would be available to play, but Gavi, De Jong, Ansu Fati and Del Olmo were all unavailable, and Flick will be hoping to close that gap between themselves and last season's champions Real Madrid, who finished 10 points ahead of Barcelona. I feel bad for all these clubs that are dealing with the injuries just as the league starts. I was just reading.
So it's not like how many points you got, it's like how many players are not injured. I mean,
yeah,
that clearly applies to Man United. They don't call them crocs for nothing.
Even
so.
Man City has a couple of players that are injured.
Well, I think they push too much, and that's another whole conversation. Too much football, different calendars, international football, club football, and one or two are playing Olympic Games as well, so you're bound to pick up injuries.
Well, talking about the Olympic Games, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has announced that Poland will officially bid to host the Olympic Games in 2040 and 2044. And this announcement follows that of Poland's Conservative President Duda, who announced last year that he intended to submit his country's bid to host the Summer Olympics in 2036. Poland have never organized an Olympic Games before. In 2012, it hosted the European Football Championship with Ukraine. It also hosted the European Games in 2023. With that said, it's a wrap from my side.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat it from inside his own arm? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Everyone
is just as important as you are. Stop gender-based violence. Treat others the way you want to be treated. No one deserves any form of violence. Report gender-based violence. Contact Lifeline South Africa toll-free number on your mobile phone. Call or WhatsApp 0800 150 150. That's 0800 150 150. Lifeline South Africa. Mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC supported initiative.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Muya, as always, hosts this show. There's no business show coming up after 6, I know that. Jimmy, what's the big stories today?
The listeners, big stories today is the market is fighting. It had a really good day. Markets closed in the green, and we are seeing some really strong indication that it's going to be a good second half of the year. We'll come to the SA markets in a sec. Let's do a quick summary of some of the global market movements, starting with Asian markets as they would have been trading first. Sydney was up 1% on the day. Hong Kong up 1.8%. China, mainland China finishing flat around 0.03%. In the green at Tokyo, the Nikkei was up 2.8%. The CAC in France also finishing flat, 0.02% in the green. The DAX in Germany up 0.75%, while the FTSE in London was down 0.4%. US markets at the moment are teetering between red and green, mostly in the red. Nasdaq down 0.1%. It had a really good day yesterday as an index. S&P down about 0.15% at this stage, with the Dow about 0.1% in the red. If we look at local markets, as I said, had a really, really good day there, with resources lagging behind but still in the positive territory space, 0.2% in the green, industrial 0.88% in the green, with financials 0.9% in the green. As a result, the top 40 was up 0.75%. Just under 0.75%. The oil share in similar territory up 0.73%. Some of the standout movers there were the likes of Vodacom, who was up about 5.6%, with Alexander Forbes up 4.4%. ArcelorMittal having a good day, up 4%. The likes of Copper 360 up at 3.8%. Some of the companies that didn't have such a good day, Exaro down 2.9%. They obviously gave us a update on their performance yesterday, and I spoke to the CFO of the business. Rainbow also not having the best day, Rainbow Chicken that is, down 2.5%. Purple Group down 2.5%. Some other movers, Invicta down 1.8%, Bytes down 1.78%, Soho Sun down 1.6%. But by and large, really good territory for South African markets to be in. We're back at all-time high territory at this point, and we're up about 2.2% on the week on the top 40, and on the rand as well, strengthening about 2.2%, 2.3% at this stage as well. On that rand update, the rand is at 17 rand and 89 cents to $1. One British pound will cost you 23 rand and 8 cents. 1 euro will cost you 19 rand 67, and 1 Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 88 cents. Interestingly enough, on the currency side, if we break through this level of 17 rand 90 or so from the rand's perspective and can hold below there, we might just see the rand strengthen to its strongest point this year. The last time we were in this kind of territory before June of this year was July of last year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that going into next week, hoping that we can maintain the momentum that we are seeing here. Quick look at commodities before we go. Gold price $2,489 an ounce, up 1.5%. That had touched $2,500 all-time high, so we've made new highs on gold prices today. Brent crude price giving back some gains here, $79.64 34 cents a barrel. Good for us on the oil price side of things. The platinum price and palladium prices almost unchanged from yesterday. $956 an ounce in the case of platinum and $932 an ounce in the case of palladium. Quick look at cryptos. The price of Ethereum, $2,569, while Bitcoin, $57,871 a coin there. We've got a couple of data points to look forward to next week. We've got CPI from Europe, CPI from South Africa. We've also got results out from MTN, ABSA, and Sasol. Some of those companies gave us guidance this week already around what those results could look like. So we've got a couple of things to look forward to next week. But for now, we'll take the wins. We end up the week in positive territory, and we have a good weekend.
All right, great. And I know you don't have a show tonight, so you can chill out, have a great weekend. You're probably going to watch rugby tomorrow if I know what things that interest you. Have a fab weekend, and we will talk on Monday.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're chatting to Dr. Alan Brusak as part of our Friday fireside chat. We'll do that up to 6 o'clock. I did say I'll take calls. I'll probably take 3 calls now in a row, so we'll get to that very quickly. Before I do that, I just want to just pick up my conversation with you once again. It's interesting. Before we even yesterday, I asked the question to Temba, my producer. I said, what's your title? Is it Dr. Alan Brusak? Is it Reverend Alan Brusak? Is it Dr. Reverend Alan Brusak? Or is it none of the above? What's the answer?
Very formally it will be Reverend Dr. Professor, but it doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm comfortable with anyone.
Okay, but I mean, you haven't dropped those titles. They do exist.
No, they do exist. I mean, so
Reverend Dr. Professor Alan Brusak. Okay, let's get to calls. Sintu in Midrand, hi.
Yes, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Go ahead. Well, you probably want to talk to Reverend Dr. Professor Brusak. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, man. Let me first commend your show for bringing one of the icons in South Africa that you've ever produced, because his role in terms of strengthening the civil society cannot be forgotten. And I like when he indicated the fact that ideologically and with regard to the position of the ANC in Palestine and the DA, its attitude to the Palestinian people, I don't think these are the things that can make both organizations to be common. But I think the role that Alan Brusak needs to play right now is to make it a point that we strengthen the NGOs, we strengthen the civil society so that we can be able to hold this government accountable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. In terms of getting the right guests, let me tell you, we've had some fabulous guests, and it's a combination. Myself, Temba, Keys, 3 men that make up the production team, and then we have Rusani on the digital side, and we decide the guests we should be targeting, and then we often succeed, like today. Lots of things you said already that you've answered, but perhaps maybe the last one. What role are you playing in South Africa right now?
Right now, I'm playing the role that our guest on the telephone just said. I'm trying to rebuild the voice of civil society, because I really do believe that unless we rebuild a vibrant, vigorous civil society, our people are not going to receive the justice that they deserve. So I'm going around the country talking to people. On Monday, in fact, there is a gathering of church leaders and civil society people here in Cape Town, and they've asked me to specifically speak on what view should we take on the government of national unity. And that is the kind of thing that we try to do. And so I accept as many of these invitations, whether it's university lectures or anything like that, to make sure that people engage fully in the conversation that I believe must now happen.
And are you succeeding at that? What I'm saying is, how much of it is just talk, great thought leader conversation, or actual activist work, and activating around big issues?
Well, you have to begin with a new kind of conversation. I just indicated earlier in our conversation that one of the tragedies of the last 30 years is how civil society has been marginalized in a way, not participating at all in any meaningful way in the national conversation, or there was really no national conversation. The ANC decides, and this is what we have to go for. Now that is changing. And so I am gratified. Look, last year, when we called for a national conversation, people responded, but people kept on saying to me, no, that's a long-term project. Let's not do it now. Let's wait for the elections. Well, the elections have come and gone. Now everybody says, now we need to do something about it. And so there is a much more open and energetic response to the idea of renewing civil society, strengthening our voice than there was even 6 months ago.
And we are seeing, as we saw even with Floyd Shivambu, we see some dramatic shifts in our society. And as you said, Helen Ziller or the DA and the ANC being charming is something that probably was unheard of. Let's play some voice notes. I'll play 3 on the go.
Good afternoon. I just caught your conversation with your guest right at the tail end, and I will definitely listen to it in the podcast or on YouTube channel. But I completely agree with him. I was not a fan of Jacob Zuma, but after he resigned, I really went back and researched all the work that he did, and I would say as well, put my neck in the line and say he is and he was the best president of South Africa, not Ramaphosa.
Oh, such a disappointment with your guest today. I was looking so forward to the fireside chat with him. But yeah, his political views are definitely not mine, and so disappointed. So he would rather Jacob Zuma run the country again and destroy the country like he did the 9 years that he was there. Come on, get real, Mr. Busak, please.
Okay, come on, get real. We'll get a response after this.
We can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, I'm going to take 2 very quick calls and we get back to Alan Busak. Butana, good chatting to you. Hi.
Hi, evening, and evening to Dr. Alan Busak. He's spot on. The ANC is so cruel, wicked, selfish, and self-serving organization that they think only about their own skin. Nothing for South Africa. This thing is benefiting ANC people individually who are supposed to be engaged, who are supposed to be not in government. 60% of South Africans have voted these people out of government. What else we must do?
Okay. Butana, got that. Let me get another call, then we get a response. Mykonos, I think in Joburg. Hi.
Ashraf, I fully agree with Alan Busak in the sense that we have got a low moral standard when it comes to politicians. But I'm quite shocked that he believes Zuma was the best. With all these scandals of state capture, what does he think about the state capture and all the running down of the economy by Zuma? And I believe that Ramaphosa basically took over from a very, very run-down state because of Zuma. I'm quite shocked what he said.
Okay, got that. I tell you what, we've only got 5 minutes to go, so we won't get a response on that. But what I will do is I'll indulge with Dr. Busak to say, hold it, let's have another thought leader conversation purely on the politics of the country for half an hour sometime soon. Not today, but certainly not today. Let's pick up on other things as we got 5 minutes to go. Crazy enough. What do you see? What is your purpose like in life now, and what is your purpose before? I mean, and has it changed?
My purpose before was simply to try and do everything that I can to secure justice for our people in South Africa and justice for all oppressed people across the world. Hence my passion for the Palestinian cause, for instance. And that is exactly what I am doing right now. I realized that our people thinking that 1994 was the end of the struggle, that's a wrong thing to think. And so we are in a new struggle, and there are new challenges, and those challenges must be met. And it can only be met by a very politically conscious and a very purposeful people who will not be afraid to take back their power and to take back their agency and to participate fully in whatever political opportunities we must create for ourselves.
Okay,
and that's where I am.
And that's where you are. I understand you have a great appreciation for music. I mean, tell me, what is it about music that appeals to you?
Well, I love all kinds of music. I mean, classical music, jazz, gospel, American gospel, South African gospel, especially what we call Koortjies, which is a gospel from the platteland, the Afrikaans platteland, especially. So yeah, music is in my blood. Music, we are a very musical family. From my grandfather, who composed wonderful songs and hymns and so forth, to our people in my family right now. So. And if music can be the only way in life that one can express one's feelings and desires and hopes, I will not be missing speeches.
Okay, wow. Well, it's interesting. I was chatting to Tumi, our sports anchor, and I was explaining, I mean, she's obviously younger than me, and like, I gave her one line to describe you, and my one line was, Alan Busak is probably, maybe, I'm going to kick out the word probably, South Africa's most articulate public speaker from this country that I've ever heard. Because
thank you.
I was spellbound when I was a youngster, and I haven't heard you speak publicly for a long time. You're obviously older. But I mean, just talk to me about that gift in 30 seconds. Just a quick insight into...
Well, you're right.
Why.
It's a gift. It's a gift. And my mother, of course, it's a gift that you must skill or train into a skill as well for yourself. But my mother always said to me, if it's a gift that you have, it's nothing to brag about. Just use it in the best way that you can. And so that's where I am with that.
And do you when did you realize you had this gift, and have you used it, in your opinion?
Oh, I was very young. Just remember, I was brought into the church as a young boy. At 5, I knew I wanted to be a preacher. By the time I was 14, I was preaching and testifying, as they say. So, and I realized how people responded to you. It was only later in my life, though, that I realized that it's a gift that you have to use very wisely. Because in the same speech that you can save people's lives and guide them in the right direction, with that same speech you can totally poison their minds and send them in the wrong direction. So you have to be very conscious of the responsibility upon you when you discover that I do have this gift, because what can inspire people can also turn into a very difficult and dangerous demagoguery that is not good for anyone.
And I'm thinking, as a nation, everybody now nodding their heads in approval to say, actually, what is my gift and how am I using it? So it's a good point. Quickly, talk to me about your love for writing and appreciation for writing in general.
I love writing because, I discovered my love for writing very early on. But from my first real book, which appeared in 1974, about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, by the way, to all of the books that I have written until now, I love the idea of reading, of doing research, especially in engaging with the ideas of others and writing in a way that does not distance you from your reading audience. And so you'll find my writing is not always strictly academic or in the terms of using technical terms. I try to write in a way that the ordinary person, not a trained theologian, can, or other people outside of theology, can also understand what I'm trying to say.
People must Google your books and read them all. Give me another book, not yours, that we must read.
Pastor Tariq Mele, The Lie of 1652. I think it is by far the best decolonized history of South Africa that we have at the moment. It's comprehensive, it goes very deep, it makes excellent point, and I have learned so much from it. So I think every school child in South Africa, every university student, every lecturer, every teacher should have that book in their hands and on their shelves as a reference.
So it's 6 o'clock already, so we need to almost douse that fire of the fireside chat. But here's a couple of quick ones, right? You spoke about Jacob Zuma as being a better president than Ramaphosa, and some people are loving it. Others are clearly annoyed with you. That's fine. That's exactly why we have this forum. But let me pick your brain and give me a name of a young South African, not necessarily a politician, a young South African that we need to look out for.
Two names quickly, and they're both young women. The one is a young woman called Jordan Peters here in Cape Town, and the other one is a young woman called Siki Dlanga from East London. Both very bright, both very committed, both very smart young women, confident young women, and I think it's the kind of person that I would like to see in public life. Not just swallowed up by business, not just swallowed up by academia, but in public life, because I think they would bring an amazing contribution, not just to young people, but to everybody.
Well, you are the preacher after all, so you can certainly preach to them to do what they need to do. Here's the last thing. You've chosen, as we play out now, a Hugh Masekela song called London Fog. Quickly, why?
London Fog came out at a time when Hugh Masekela was in exile. And that longing for home, that desire to be away from all of the pleasures of a city like London, but being home, and the fog is, I think, the feeling that you have of being disconnected. You're drifting somewhere, you can't see very far, you can't identify with what you can see, but when you get home, that'll be a different story, and that's why I love that song, apart from the fact that he is an amazing talent.
All right, that's where we're going to end it. Great chatting to you. We'll have this full-on political conversation soon, right? So we'll play out with the London Fog, and hopefully it'll help us understand the need to see clearer now. In fact, we won't do the London Fog now. We'll get to the news, but we'll have another conversation soon. It's the news now at 6 o'clock.
Government criticised over Marikana claims, and the UN releases a report on Bangladesh protests. Good evening. A lawyer representing some of the widows of the slain Marikana miners, Dalin Porfu, says government hasn't resolved several claims related to the Marikana massacre. He was addressing mine workers and UMKU supporters at the annual Marikana commemoration near Rustenburg in the northwest. Earlier, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development said more than 350 million rand has been paid out in claims related to Marikana. And Porfu also criticised President Cyril Ramaphosa for failing to visit Marikana as promised.
With regards to our cases against government, they said today in Parliament that they paid 300 million. It's still the same 300 million they spoke about last year, but government itself still has 10 outstanding cases they haven't compensated.